Chapter 11. Braised Chicken Wings with Potatoes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 11. Braised Chicken Wings with Potatoes. Since Wan Tang promised to prepare a lot of food for the audience lottery in the evening, he naturally had to prepare in advance. He scrolled through the shopping site for a bit and decided to make the very convenient braised chicken wings. In fact, he would have preferred to eat cola chicken wings, but in the absence of cola, he could only go with the next best thing. The price of chicken wings was not cheap, each one cost 20 GM. After all, a chicken had only 2 chicken wings. In the future, people didn't use hormones to grow broilers. However, thanks to the local tyrant, his funds had already increased many times over and Wan Tang was no longer concerned about this small expense. He bought 50 chicken wings at once, in addition to buying a bigger pot and some seasoning. There were still a lot of potatoes left over from last time. When he puts them in and stews them together, it should be able to make a big pot, enough for more than a dozen people. However, he still couldn't eat anything too greasy. He needed to eat lighter foods to let his stomach recuperate, so he bought some shrimp and prepared to make shrimp congee. He wasn't worried about those sunspots returning. He had also received the notification from the Star Network. The Academy had confirmed that what he had said during the live broadcast was true. This undoubtedly gave him a strong backing. Even if that group of sunspots came back, they wouldn't dare to question him anymore. The trust of the other audiences would also have increased. Moreover, he also had a room administrator that could help him manage the complex live chat area. He just didn't know if he would be online today. Because he was going to use all the potatoes, he asked Xiao Bai to help peel all the potatoes and then soak them in the water. Xiao Bai's intelligence was very high, and his learning ability was very strong. Although his knife skills can't be compared with a professional chef's like Wan Tang's, it was still more than enough to peel the more than dozen potatoes. After the preparations were completed, Wan Tang started the live broadcast. Everyone, good evening. I am your anchor, Wan Tang, and today I will cook for you some braised chicken wings and shrimp congee. With just a greeting, the live broadcast room was flooded with numerous viewers who had received the notification and rushed in. Already, the number of online viewers had exceeded 6 digits. He took a look at the audience list and at the top was a green user ID with the golden room administrator symbol. It was he. Wan Tang don't know why, but he felt relieved at once. Meow Meow loves to eat shrimp. Hey! The broadcast is on. Today I, who loves to eat shrimp, is also here. Anchor, I love you. Sending crystal flowers. Can't stop hugging trees. The Xiao Long Bao was delicious. Should one desire to sing, one would amaze the world with his first song. This crystal flower is my deep love for you. Small transparent. Hey, the anchor said that some people will be allergic to shrimp. I didn't pay heed at the time, but after eating it, I itched all over. I went to the hospital to drink medicine before it stopped. It seems that shrimps and I can't be together. I can only satisfy my cravings through the broadcasts. QAQ, working the night shift every day. Damn. I didn't get to eat any. The anchor said that he would prepare some delicious lottery prizes tonight. Is it true? Honey Summer. The Xiao Long Bao was delicious. Moon Heart Bell. Lottery draw. I have eaten roasted chicken wings in a high-end restaurant before. I already thought they were very delicious at the time, but the anchors must be even better. Looking at the feedback from the lucky viewers who had eaten the dumplings, he was very happy and answered with a smile. I promised everyone. Of course, I remember. He slowly laid down a big box of chicken wings in front of the audience. I bought 50 chicken wings and prepared to cook a large pot, and I will give it to 20 lucky viewers. This good news suddenly caused cheering among all the audience present. Meow Meow loves to eat shrimp. Great. Anchor, I love you. Can't stop hugging trees. Wait a minute, 50 chicken wings, how do you divide it to 20 people? Sigma, winky face, ha ha ha, then I have to keep a few of them to eat. Wan Tang couldn't help but laugh. Hugwood can't hold it. Right. Oh, I forgot the anchor himself needs to eat. Gold coins fall. The anchor is so hard. Working. Eat more, anchor. Okay then, we are officially starting now. Wan Tang would be making the oil-free and salt-free version of the braised chicken wings today so that he can eat some. He put the big pot that he just bought today on the stove, raised the temperature, and then poured water into it. He then added sugar and let it boil. He poured in soy sauce and then lowered the temperature to simmering. Only then did he put in all the washed, clean chicken wings. Once inside the pot, he used a spatula to stir it around a bit, and soon the chicken wings were dyed the slightly brownish color of soy sauce. Because there was no oyster sauce, he only put dark soy sauce and added hot water, and then waited until the water reduced and no longer covered the chicken wings before adding in the cornstarch slurry. The broth inside the pot started to thicken and seep into the meat of the chicken wings. He covered it with the lid and let it boil over a low heat to braise. Then he began to process the potatoes that had been peeled. He cut all the potatoes into chunks before he threw them into the pot, where they were swallowed into the thick broth. Put in on low heat to let it stew for a full 10 minutes and then you're done. He re-closed the lid and started to cook congee. ID 230677784. Hey! It looks delicious. I can't wait any longer. Cooking congee was very simple. Put the washed rice into a small pot, add the right amount of water, and cook slowly at low temperature, then start treating the shrimp. He still cut the shrimp head off first, then cut the back of the shrimp to devein it. This time, no one jumped out to say that he was bloody and violent. The Academy had confirmed that his treatment method was correct, and the audience naturally would not question him again. Wan Tang put the processed shrimp and the minced scallion and ginger together. He sprinkled it with salt, and let it steep for a while. When the congee was almost done, he added the marinated shrimp into it. He slowly stirred while cooking. When he had cooked shrimp that morning, the shrimps were wrapped in dumpling skins, and so they hadn't seen it slowly turning into cooked shrimp. This time, the shrimp was clearly stirred in the congee without any cover. The audience standing close could see that the shrimp in the pot had turned into a beautiful peachy color from the original transparent cyan, though it still had a translucent property. It looked like a fine red jade. As the cooking went on, the live room gradually filled with the sweet aroma emanating from the congee pot. Mo family's jade. God, my mouth is starting to water, when can I eat it? Fill the eyes with magnificent mulberries. I wanted to steal a pinch, and I was burned as expected. I haven't even added the seasonings. Aren't you a little too anxious? Wan Tang shook his head helplessly, adding a little salt and pepper to the congee and mixing them evenly. After putting it into the bowl, he once again sprinkled chopped green onion on top. With apricot-pink shrimp drifting half in and out of the shiny white surface dotted with chopped green onions, surrounded by faint steam, it looked like a colorful and beautiful picture. The fresh shrimp congee is finished, everyone can taste it, but be careful. He had just finished speaking when the foodies screamed and rushed in, then they were burnt. Xin remembers snow. Delicious ayaha. Can't stop hugging trees. Hot, hot, hot. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Following broadcasts to learn how to cook. It really tastes good, the shrimp is very fresh, very springy, the congee is cooked very well, and the texture is great. This doesn't look very difficult, I will try it myself tomorrow. Yes, these two are very convenient foods to make. You can do it yourself if you have time. He said as he opened the lid of the pot and saw that the broth had seeped into the wings. Wan Tang ladled a few out. The chicken wings are done, everyone can taste it together. The chicken wings and potatoes that have just come out of the pot, the potatoes had cleanly absorbed the fat from the chicken wings, and it looked not only very refreshing, but also very beautiful in color. Drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night. Poetry and oh, it's so delicious. It just melts in your mouth. Wind, flowers, snow and moon. The salty taste carries a hint of sweetness. The chicken is especially soft. It just falls off the bones even without having to bite it. The potato is also super delicious. QAQ asking the goddess of luck to bless me, must let me win. UXAN Ling. I knew it would be delicious, but I never thought it would be this delicious. Simply cannot stop. I can eat that entire pot. Meow Meow loves to eat shrimp. I have to change my name again. TVT, can't stop hugging trees. Although there are 20 winners, there are actually more than 100,000 competitors. Can I still win another prize? Shivering.jpg, star heart. Draw the lottery, draw. Little Ginger. Silently praying for the prize. Lu Yi Bai. Silently praying to win +1, he. It's delicious, I want to win. Even the always silent local tyrant fan shouldn't help but send out a comment. Amidst the many viewers' expectations, Wan Tang opened the lottery function, and from the hundreds of thousands of viewers, 20 people were drawn. Congratulations to the 20 lucky viewers tonight. These are drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night, Vivian Fong, Lu Yi Bai, ID 230677784. Everyone, while waiting for your prize to arrive, you can cook a little rice. It will taste even better with the chicken wings. Wan Tang took out the newly bought preservation boxes and started packing. The express delivery will be sent later, please pay attention to check and receive. Today's live broadcast will end here, everyone, see you tomorrow. Seeing that the live broadcast was about to end, but they weren't on the winners list, many of the viewers sent out crying expressions, as if they were suffering the pain of having missed out on $1 billion. He-Yin Chen's brow wrinkled and decisively rewarded a meteor shower. Wan Tang was dazed, then he lifted his face and smiled slightly. Thank you. Then cleanly shut down the live broadcast. He-Yin Chen. The author has something to say. Adjutant Lee. So unhappy. Today was suddenly not okay, He-Yin Chen. I am not happy, I don't have my share, carrot. Chapter 12. The Chefs Association's Invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 12. The Chefs Association's Invitation. A moment ago, Wan Tang had closed the live broadcast so fast, but it wasn't that he didn't want to say a few more words with everyone, but because his light brain had an incoming call. The number was unfamiliar and Wan Tang hesitated, but still chose to connect the call. Hello. Hello, is this Mr. Wan Tang? The sweet female voice came from the opposite side. Wan Tang said, it's me. Hello, Mr. Wan, I am Wang Xia, a staff member of the Xinjiang Live Broadcasting Platform. My employee number is 247454. She revealed her identity and explained, it is like this. The Chefs Association contacted us hoping to get in touch with you, but you are signed under our platform and we will not disclose your personal information to anyone without your permission, so I would like to ask you for your opinion on the matter. Wang Xia was very forthcoming in conveying the request of the other party. Would you like us to hand over your personal contact number to the other party? Yes, but aside from the contact number, I hope that the platform would not reveal my other personal information. Wan Tang nodded. Less than 5 minutes after the call ended, the Chefs Association's dispatch came through. Hello, Mr. Wan, I am Zhao Ping of the External Relations Department of the Chefs Association. We have learned about your excellent performance on the Xinjiang Live platform. The President admires you very much. I wonder if would be interested in joining the Chefs Association and taking the certification test. The Chefs' Association was the holy land of all chefs in the interstellar world. Although it has been unsatisfactory in terms of results in recent years, its status has become more and more prestigious. Along with the Academy of Sciences beginning to implement and restore natural ingredients, the government has allocated large sums of money each year to subsidize the Chefs' Association. It has become a place that every chef dreams of entering. And if you can become a star-ranked chef, there will be a qualitative leap in the chef's own personal social status. As for the chef certificate, he had planned to go to take the exam before, but regarding entering the Chef Association, he had no intention of doing so. Aside from the fact that his body had not yet fully recovered, there was another reason, which was the original identity of this body. Although he had been sleeping for 5 years and has settled with the entertainment company, the original owner had been a film emperor once, appearing quite often in public, and was easily recognizable. He was afraid that in the future there would be many disturbances. After thinking a bit, he could only reply with some regret. Sorry, it's little inconvenient for me to join the association for now. As for the chef certification test, I will participate when I have time. Okay, I look forward to your arrival. Hearing the rejection, the other party wasn't disappointed, and asked, next Wednesday, the association will hold a culinary skills exchange meeting. There will be many star-ranked chefs coming to participate. If you are interested, we can send you an invitation. I wonder if you have time. He thought about it for a while, and refused. I'm sorry, actually, I have just had a serious illness. It is not convenient for me to go out. I'm afraid I can't participate in the exchange. That's really unfortunate. Rejected twice in a row, but Zhao Ping's attitude has remained unchanged. I hope that you will recover soon. The exchange is held every month. If you change your mind, we would be happy to welcome you. Okay, thank you. The two talked a little more and then ended the call. This communication from the Chefs' Association made him realize that he should learn more about the original owner. Although the main reason why he did not attend the exchange meeting was because of his still recovering body, the other reason was that he still does not know much about the original owner, and is afraid of any trouble. But he can't just stay locked up in this apartment doing live broadcasts. When the time comes, his identity will naturally be exposed. If he still knew nothing about the life or maybe even secrets about of the original owner, who knows what kind of consequences would arise. Since crossing into this world, there have been few contacts with anyone except in the hospital. All the things he knew about the original owner were learned from the former agent Chui Lei, but Chui Lei was not clear about his matters before the original contracting agency. What is the situation of the original family, and who did he give that large amount to every month? He must figure out these things. Although amnesia was a good excuse, and the hospital could even prove it, Wan Tang didn't want to do things this way, lest it be used by some people to take advantage of him. He shook his head, set it aside for now and turned back into the kitchen. Xiao Bai had packaged all 20 prizes and just needed to call the Interstellar Express delivery. 2 chickens per person and a large spoonful of potatoes, more than enough for one person to eat with a serving of rice. Of the remaining 10 chicken wings, Wan Tang only left 4 for himself, and the remaining 6 were all packaged and ready to be sent to that local tyrant who didn't win any prize. Before, that group of sunspots could be suppressed so quickly thanks to his help, and these chicken wings were basically bought with the money he had rewarded, so naturally he should have a portion. Wan Tang remembered the other party sent a meteor shower before the live broadcast was closed but still couldn't get the reply he wanted. Wan Tang could just imagine how the other must be feeling abandoned and aggrieved. Wan Tang couldn't help but laugh. Seems like it may be a bit cute. After finishing all the work on hand, Yun Chen had composed his face. The sky was already dark. He thought that there would be a meal from the anchor in the evening, so he didn't prepare any nutrient solution. At this point, he felt that the stomach was a bit hungry. Sure enough, natural ingredients will corrupt a person's will, Yun Chen thought coldly. He stepped out of the elevator, and was preparing to leave the military, when he was called out to by the officer of the security department. "Marshal, we have your express delivery." Yun Chen was a bit dazed. He took his express delivery, and saw that the word food written on it. He couldn't help it as the tip of his eyebrow gave a twitch. "Thank you." He nodded to the officer, and took the courier out the door and rode a suspended car. 15 minutes later, the mansion of the He family appeared in front of him. As soon as the door opened, Yun Chen was keenly aware of a disgusting smell, but it was somehow mixed with some familiar scent. It made him unable but to slightly wrinkle his handsome eyebrows. "Shao Chen." Hearing something astir, Ran Jing came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. "I didn't expect you to come back so early. I made Shao eat a meal. If you don't like it, you should go upstairs first." Ran Jing watched her younger son's face carefully. As a mother, she naturally knew how much her younger son was disgusted with natural food. In this respect, her husband was actually the same, so she rarely happened to cook at home. But today was the weekend, she and her eldest son were coincidentally home early, and they made some simple food, as proposed by the eldest son. She didn't expect that the younger son would also come back early. "It doesn't matter, I brought food." Yun Chen lifted the preservation box that had already been removed from its package. Looking at the food contained in the transparent box, Ran Jing suddenly stopped. She couldn't believe that her younger son would actually take the initiative to bring natural food to his home. At this time, Yun had changed into his pajamas and went downstairs. When he saw the preservation box in his hand, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Oh! Is this braised chicken wings with potatoes? Why are there so many? Which restaurant did you buy it from on the way home? These star-ranked chefs can't make anything new, the new ingredients from the scientists on the other hand aren't slow. These weren't bought." Yun Chen put the box on the table, and faintly said, "Let's eat together." "It wasn't bought. Someone sent it to you." Yun thought it was sent by his brother's fans, and quickly shook his head. "Shao Chen, you still shouldn't eat that, try your brother's." Yun Chen looked as his brother took out a preservation box as though it were some treasure. It looked much like his own box. It also contained braised chicken wings and potatoes. Lately there's been this really popular anchor on the Star Network. Do you know the Xia family's little princess? She seems to be very fascinated by this anchor recently. Every time she comes to talk to Bai Che, she even suspects that the anchor is a member of the Academy of Sciences. Yun shook his head and couldn't help but smile. But in this case, the anchor is actually much more impressive than the chefs from the association. These chefs already have an insider sending them advance releases of the ingredients, but they never expected that other party would be able to figure out the ingredient in just 2 hours. Yun Chen. He skipped over this topic and grabbed onto a different important point. The Chefs Association has an inside agent in the academy. He can't really be considered an agent, he just tells the ingredients in advance, and sends a few samples to them for research. Yun waved his hand. Looking at his older brother's fox-like smile, Yun Chen said. "This agent should be one of yours." Yun wasn't annoyed at having been found out. He smiled and said, "Our Academy of Sciences also needs to generate income, after all." During the conversation between the two brothers, Ran Jing had already come out with the cooked dishes. When she heard the brothers talking, she couldn't help but say, "What secret conversations are you two having?" Yun walked over to help her put the plate on the table. He smiled and pulled out a chair for her, then sat down next to her. "We're not having secret conversations. The Chefs Association is getting worse, and yesterday there was a food anchor that gave them a slap to the face." He pointed to the chicken wings on the table. "This is the lottery prize I won from that anchor's broadcast today. You also taste it and see if you like it." He then pointed to the one brought by Yun Chen. "Over here we have the one Shao Chen brought, it's probably a copycat version." He couldn't help but glance at his younger brother. You've never watched any entertainment programs, and now you've suffered losses because of it. You don't even know you bought fakes. No, he said quietly. Chen pulled out a chair and sat across from his brother. His posture was still completely straight. This is also the anchors. In front of Yi's eyes, he couldn't help but lift his jaw slightly, and in a quiet and contented mood opened the cover of the preservation box. At the dense rich aroma that wafted out, he slightly raised his eyebrow in a slightly disgustingly smug manner. I am the room manager of the live broadcast room. The author has something to say, small theater. Chen. My wife is really great. This old gong feels very proud. Yi. Oh, does he even know you? Slightly smiling face. Chapter 13. Film Emperor Wan Tang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 13, Film Emperor Wan Tang. Ah. Yi's brows rose, so that, he is you. He couldn't help but stand up and reach out to touch his brother's forehead. With a deep and forceful voice, he said, now, you tell me. Did something happen to you? Chen. He coldly patted away his brother's hand and pointed at the chicken wings in the box. He said quietly, this is the reason. Being able to let his anorexic self enjoy the delights of natural food, the cause of this could already be considered a miracle. Outside the mansion came the sound of a suspended car, and Ran Jing smiled, your father's back. She stood up and hurried out with a smile on her face. There were two SS-class fighters in the family. Although glorious, their very sharp five senses also make them lose out on the fun that many ordinary people experience. For example, in the case of eating, their family of four never sat together in a single place. It was always that she and her eldest son would eat natural ingredients downstairs, and the younger son and her husband would eat nutrient solutions upstairs. The chicken wings brought back by her two sons was actually something that the younger son liked, so her husband naturally wouldn't be disgusted by it either. She opened the door, helped her husband to take off his military uniform, and then asked her husband to sit down to eat. Seeing that his younger son, who had only ever eaten nutrient solutions, was also sitting quietly at the table, Yi couldn't help but furrow his brows. He was about to refuse, when his nose caught a whiff of something that was different from before. Such a good smell. His eyes fell on the congee and preservation boxes on the table. Yi pulled out the chair from the head of the table, smiled and said, Dad, today's meal is different from the previous ones. Just sit down and try some. He pointed at the chicken wings on the table. Even Aiken likes it. There is also this fresh shrimp porridge, which I cooked according to the video. The taste should also be okay. Ran Jing took him to sit down. The porridge she cooked today was the prawn porridge that Wan Tang cooked during the live broadcast today. Because the cooking method seemed to be relatively simple, she followed it step by step and it seemed to be a success. In addition, she also fried a vegetable dish. One meat, one vegetable and one congee. Today's dinner looked like a hard-to-come-by luxurious feast. Ran Jing gave them a heaping bowl of congee, and then she added a chicken wing to Chen and Ye's plates. Chen already liked Wan Tang's craftsmanship. In one bite he bit off half of the chicken wing. The chicken was boiled tender and the taste of the soy sauce penetrated into it, making it look more rich and mellow. The chicken skin was the tastiest, soft and slippery. It made people itching to bite into more. At this time, eating a mouthful of the thick shrimp congee, the clear sweetness from the rice diluted the oily feel from the chicken wings. The warm congee went down into his stomach, immediately warming it completely. Seeing that his younger son ate with such gusto, Yi also couldn't help but to have a rare sense of anticipation. He also had a chicken wing. At first his eyebrows were furrowed, but after biting a bit on the side, it smoothed out in an instant, and his eyes flashed with surprise. He ate faster than Chen, and cleaned the chicken in one bite, then spit out a thin bone. Which star-ranked chef made this? He couldn't help but praise. When did the Chefs Association have such a great new chef? Hyun couldn't help but poke fun. Dad, how long has it been since you've been on the Star Network? This was from a food anchor under Mom's company. Even us, your sons, these young masters who don't eat the food of common mortals are hooked on his food. One of us even went so far as to become their room manager to help them out, and he then looked at his younger brother with a smile that was yet not a smile. Hyun Chen looked at him coldly, and then snagged the last piece of chicken wing that should have belonged to his brother. Hyun Chen. Hyun screamed at him. He angrily glared at his brother and watched with bitterness as he finished off the chicken wing. He said full of hatred, "You are simply a cow eating peonies. In the first place, ah. Yes." Ran Jing looked at Hyun Chen, put down the congee bowl in her hands and said, "Aiken, the accounts that you asked me to check yesterday, I've already found out that these were all employed professional water armies. A pretty sum was transferred into their accounts, and after tracing the source it should be from someone in the Chefs Association." Chefs Association. Hyun Chen frowned. Ran Jing shook her head. The remittance came from a relative of a star-ranked chef. They also work in a restaurant. They have no direct clashing of interests with the anchor, so I think it should have been incited by someone from the top. But it certainly wouldn't have been by President Gu. He also contacted the live broadcast platform today. He wanted to invite Wan Tang to join the Chefs Association. It sounded like he looks highly upon Wan Tang. She shook her head. The way I see it, the most likely culprit is that guy Chizhua. I heard that he isn't very satisfied with his current position. Hyun Chen nodded. I know. Next to her, Wei frowned. The Chefs Association. Such talent, rather than recruiting him they want to get rid of him instead. It is the jealous mediocre person who doesn't welcome in new people. Besides, the Chefs Association isn't a unified bloc inside. Ran Jing shook her head. I also saw the accident that he was involved in before when he was still acting, and it also seems to be a bit suspicious. Thinking of the information she saw, Ran Jing's eyebrows furrowed. She didn't intentionally invade his personal privacy, but when he signed a contract with the live broadcast platform, his personal information was uploaded to the database. Today, when the Chefs Association requested to contact the anchor through the platform, Ran Jing had to look it up in the process. Hearing the words, acting, and accident, Hyun Chen's brow suddenly wrinkled and he asked, what happened? You should recognize Wan Tang, the movie emperor. The youngest Waska film emperor. He is that food anchor, Wan Tang. Originally, when she saw this name, she thought it was just someone with the same name. After all, there were tens of billions of people in the interstellar world. It was hard to find a name without a duplicate. She never would have thought that the identity of these two from completely different fields turned out to be the same person. He had an accident 5 years ago when he was filming. His head was badly hit and he was in a coma for 5 years. According to the records, he was just discharged from hospital. A young actor who had just won the distinction as film emperor and had a good future, now had to rely on the live broadcasts to make a living, and he still didn't even dare to show his face. The feeling of seeing him drop down to the very bottom and then this quickly being able to rise up from the shadows and start again made Ran Jing have a little more pity for this young man. Wei said, how did the accident come about? It was an accident during the filming of a mech battle scene. The mech suddenly exploded. He couldn't open the hatch and was trapped inside until he was rescued after the explosion. Couldn't open the hatch. Wei said, these mechs have emergency escape measures. How could this happen? Ran Jing sighed. This is also the point that I suspect. But since then 5 years have already passed, and for now the incident can't be investigated very clearly. Hyun Chen asked, what about his family? There is no relevant record in his personal information. Maybe there is no family member. Ran Jing said with a sigh, this child was born under an unlucky star, he strived alone, and after much difficulty things were starting to look up, and then such an accident happened and all of a sudden he has to start all over. Ever since they were young, the two children of the He family were giants among men, and they had never suffered any grievance. The eldest son was naughty, mischievous and black-bellied, while the younger son was cold and serious. Neither of them have ever made her worry. But now, seeing Yuan Tang, this outstanding and lovable child suffering such matters, it made Ran Jing's heart overflow with maternal love. I think this child is very independent. Otherwise, I would want him to come to our house. She couldn't help but shake her head again. Since you two brothers like to watch the live broadcast, it's not a big deal to send more gifts. The way I see it, he was just discharged from the hospital, his body must still be weak, and it's precisely at this time that he needs money. Okay, after eating, they left the smart butler to clean the table, and they each went upstairs to their rooms to rest. He-Yun-Chin leaned against the headboard, his fingers fiddling with the light brain on his wrist, thinking about what he had just heard. He originally just wanted to help solve the problems of the few sunspots. But he had inadvertently explored the other's past, which gave him a sense of shame that came with prying into the privacy of others. However, he could not help but think, under the anchor's always laughing voice, were there any other hidden secrets? Suddenly a light screen popped up in front of him, and He-Yun-Chen was startled and found that he had just unconsciously opened the anchor's personal channel. Yuan Tang. He gently rolled the name around the tip of his tongue, feeling like he had swallowed a piece of medicine, with an outer layer of sugar but wrapped around a bit of bitterness. How can this person hide so well? Making him want to also take a look and see what was actually at the center of this medicine. It hadn't been long since Yuan Tang started broadcasting, and there are only 5 videos in the channel. He opened the first one and the surroundings became the look of the live room. Yuan Tang probably opened the privacy protection. Except for the cooktop in front of him, he could only see a blurred warm-colored figure. From his point of view, he could just see threads of soft-looking hair ends. Maybe because of the kitchen lights, it seemed to be a gentle and soft, pale chestnut color. At the first live broadcast, there were very few people. There were only 3 people. He looked as Yuan Tang adjusted his slightly ill-fitting clothes and then he began to introduce himself. He-Yun-Chin felt that even this kind of young and inexperienced action could endear himself to a person. Although he couldn't see Yuan Tang's face, he could imagine how gentle and shy the smile was on the face of this youth who spoke with such a clear, sweet-sounding voice. He-Yun-Chen's perspective kept changing with the perspective of the anchor. He looked at Yuan Tang's agile movements as he handled the ingredients. His wrist gave a tremble as he lifted the pot lid and threw in the fish fillets one after the other. That bit of exposed wrist was very thin, the skin was like the highest quality white jade, under the bright lights it gave off a kind of gentle luster. He-Yun-Chen's line of sight went down and for some reason he couldn't move his eyes. The aroma in the live room became more and more intense. Even if he had just had dinner, his stomach couldn't help but give a hungering groan once again, but his eyes were still stuck to that section of wrist. The wrists exerted a bit of effort and a small round bone suddenly protruded. On the back of the wrist, he could even see the light blue blood vessels get agitated. The owner of that wrist ladled out a bowl of congee, and the white, slender fingers held a porcelain white spoon that sparkled under the bright lights, so that for a time he could not tell whether it was the spoon that shone whiter or the other hand that was whiter. His Adam's apple bobbed without his control. He-Yun-Chin bent down, as if he was being fed by Yuan Tang. He extended his neck to the spoon, and with a sweep of his tongue, the sweet taste of the fish fillet spread in his mouth. But the food in the holographic world can't be swallowed. This sort of quenching one's thirst by thinking of plums kind of action just made the longing feeling in his stomach stronger, those wrists. His eyes fell on those white jade-like wrists and he couldn't help but reach out. Although he was unable to make physical contact with the anchor because of privacy protection, and could only stay within the virtual world, he still felt satisfied. He sighed deeply in his heart. Too skinny. Chapter 14. Jian Bingguizi, Crispy Savory Crepes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 14, Jian Bingguizi, Crispy Savory Crepes. At home, Wan Tang had been recuperating for a few days, both sleeping and eating well. He felt that his physical condition had improved significantly. He should be able to eat a bit of meat for nourishment. After eating light foods for so many days, he was actually feeling a bit ravenous. He wanted to indulge himself now and eat a large piece of meat. Wan Tang opened the light brain, and eagerly swept through the shopping site to start buying ingredients. He bought a large piece of pork belly, as well as several pounds of large bones with meat, winter melons, flour and seasonings, etc., ready to be used to make braised meat noodles. The big bones will be used to make the broth. Not only could it make noodle soup, but it could also supplement his calcium as well. The melon would be used to soak up the umami of the noodle soup. However, if the bones needed to be boiled for a good 2 or 3 hours, or it won't be any good. So Wan Tang planned to boil the bones first and have the meat noodles for tonight. Today's brunch was still something a little simple. He thought for a while and decided to make a crispy savory crepe. It was one of the most popular breakfast foods in his previous life, and he was full of nostalgia for that taste. He then bought some cornmeal, eggs, lettuce, and tenderloin. When he saw the soybeans, he also bought a pound. He also particularly wanted to drink soy milk. Drinking a cup of fragrant, dense, mellow and rich cup of soy milk in the mornings would make the whole body feel particularly well. But the soybeans needed to be soaked first before grinding into soy milk. There wouldn't be enough time this morning, and he could only make some for himself tonight. Because he bought a lot, he needed to pay more than 600 GM coins when he checked out. But Wan Tang didn't even blink when confirming the payment. Things now were not the same as before. The balance in the account had already risen to 5 figures, and he now had the confidence when spending money. While waiting for the Interstellar Express delivery, he searched for the Chefs Association on the Star Network, found their official website, and then went to take a look. On the top homepage of the official website, were basically different methods to cook all kinds of ingredients, arranged according to the order that the ingredients were released by the Academy of Sciences. The newer ingredients are ranked higher, but it can be seen that there was a certain lag compared with the time of release by the Academy of Sciences. The efficiency was not very good. In the middle position was the very eye-catching registration for the chef rank qualification test. Clicking here would let one see the relevant instructions. The chef's certificate was divided into 5-star ranks according to the grade. This kind of grading system was consistent with what Wan Tang knew from his past life. The highest level was the 5-star chef. The chef star rating must be from low to high, going up rank by rank. After becoming a 1-star chef, you could work at a restaurant as a famous chef. However, only after you have qualified as a 3-star chef can you have the qualifications to open your own restaurant. If you continue to upgrade, the restaurant under the chef's name will also be upgraded. Those so-called star-rated restaurants were also like this. After you get the chef's certificate, you could enjoy the Chefs Association's material benefit remuneration. For example, if you managed to research a new cooking method, you could get a pretty substantial bonus. On top of that, if the main ingredient was a newly released ingredient from the Academy of Sciences, you could get an extra reward. These systems seemed to be quite user-friendly, and there was no hard requirement for the chefs themselves. Many star-ranked chefs could also choose to become private chefs hired by dignitaries. The chef's grade assessment was once a month. Wan Tang took a look and saw that the next assessment would be in 10 days. He estimated that his body should also have recovered by then, there should be no problem getting out the door. So he signed up on the official website, paid the examination fee of 300 GM coins, and left. Not long after, he received a notice from the Chef Association telling him that he had signed up successfully and told him the location and time of the assessment. Yuan Tang set up an event reminder on the light brain, and also let Xiao Bai help to remind him, so the unexpected mishap of forgetting to go participate in the assessment. At this time, the express delivery had just arrived. After Xiao Bai received the items for him and placed it one by one on the counter, he started the live broadcast. Hello everyone, I am your anchor, Yuan Tang. Today, I want to make for you some savory crepes. After the routine greetings, Yuan Tang watched the fast-growing number of online viewers and couldn't help but curve his eyes in a smile. Savory crepes were a famous snack in Tianjin. In his past life, it could be found around the campuses of various provinces. The thin crispy skin was spread with a thick paste of fermented soybean and then wrapped around various ingredients. It was convenient and delicious. It was famous as a stomach-filling snack that many students and workers were fond of. Drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night. Sending crystal flowers to the dearest anchor, the chicken wings and potatoes were super delicious. I didn't even waste the rest of the soup. I mixed it all in with rice and ate a whole pot of rice. Lu Yi Bai. I'm not gonna say anything, I almost even ate the plate. Vivian Fong. I forgot to lock the door in the bedroom, I just had time to put a chicken wing in my mouth, and the rest were all eaten by those animals. Meow Meow loves to eat chicken wings. No one who won the prize gets to cry a word of complaint, draw a circle to curse you. Can't stop hugging trees. Hey, I want to eat delicious chicken wings. Yuan Tang couldn't help but laugh at it. There is still a chance today, the savory crepes are also delicious. Working the night shift every day. Anchor, what is a savory crepe? Crepes actually have a pancake-wrapped meaning. It is similar to the egg cake I have made before, but it will maybe wrapped around fresh vegetables, crispy fried doughs and other such things. The crepe is also thinner and more brittle. Yuan Tang didn't know how to explain the history of savory crepes to these interstellar citizens and could only talk to them about the origin of the name. He poured the flour and cornmeal into a large bowl in the same proportion, added 2 eggs, a little cooking oil and water, and then vigorously stirred until they were well combined. While stirring, Yuan Tang explained to the audience. When stirring, everyone needs a little patience. It must be stirred until it's homogeneous, otherwise it will affect the texture of the crepe. Making the batter for the crepe was quickly done. Next, he took out a bowl and poured out half of a small bag of flour into it, added the right amount of salt, oil and warm water and started kneading the dough. Little Ginger. Why did you make 2 bowls of dough, Anchor? Are you planning to make lots and lots of pancakes and give us all a share? He explained. No, the batter over there will be used to make crepes. The dough in my hand is to make the crispy flatbread, but I will make a few portions for the lottery. Purple Fantasy Moon. What is the difference between the crepe and flatbread? The crepe is used to wrap outside and the shortbread is sandwiched inside. In a while everyone can see me make one and you'll all understand. Yuan Tang quickly kneaded the dough until it was smooth, put it in a preservation box and set it aside. Taking advantage of the time needed to allow the dough to rest, Yuan Tang mixed some Tian Mian Jiang, sweet sauce from fermented flour. When had made the egg cakes, everyone had already seen it, so it made the audience anticipate the finished product more. After preparing the sauce to be brushed onto the crepe, he took out a small frying pan. For the filling in the savory crepes, Yuan Tang had prepared some tenderloin. Tenderloin was smooth and tender, and it is cooked very quickly. It was a common accompaniment for crepes, luo mo, rice wrappers, and shua zhua bing, fried flatbread. He cut the tenderloin into 2.3 mm pieces of meat, fried both sides in a pan until they were cooked and had turned into a lustrous light brown, which was then lifted out and placed on a plate for later use. Meow Meow loves to eat chicken wings. QAQ, this meat smells so fragrant, how come it doesn't taste like much? Can't stop hugging trees. Swipe a bit of the sauce. It became delicious right away. Small transparent. Really. I will also try it. Little lazy. I'm gonna try too, seeing that the two Joker had begun stealing food, and even actually instigated the other viewers. Wan Tang couldn't help but feel it was ridiculous. Anyway, they can only eat virtual data, and it has no effect on his cooking, so he let them do as they wished. At this time, the dough was almost ready. He took the dough out of the box, cut it into small rectangular pieces, and then kneaded them into thin slices with a rolling pin. He put them in a frying pan, and fried them until crispy. At this time, they have turned a slightly golden yellow color, similar to churros. The surface blistered with various sized bubbles, thin and crispy. A slight bump would be enough to break it apart. Now we can officially start making crepes. Wan Tang took out the pan and heated it, brushing a layer of oil on it and then pouring a spoonful of batter into the pan. The way savory crepes were made at home were slightly different from the way they were made outside. After all, the pan was different, so a scraper wouldn't be suitable for use. Because the crepe needed to be thin, his movements were very fast, holding the pan and turning the wrists quickly so that the batter went around the entire pan, gradually forming a complete round cake. It quickly turned a faint yellow, which meant that it was already half cooked. After the crepe was set, he broke an egg over it and gently scraped it with a spatula to make the egg fill the entire cake. Once the side below was done, he flipped over the crepe so that both sides were cooked to a crispy golden brown. He spread the sweet noodle sauce on the crepe followed by a pile of the tenderloin, chopped green onions, washed lettuce leaves and the broken shortbread. He rolled up each side, and then chopped it in the middle with a spatula. The savory crepe was done. Well, everyone can now have a taste. The fragrant smell of the savory crepe wafted about, and the Wan Tang called on the audience to try it, while he himself continued to make more crepes, preparing the ones he would send out as a prize. Wing crane. How can he put the raw vegetable leaves into it? Can this really be eaten? Xing X in. The commenter above must be new. The things that the anchor makes must all be edible, not only edible but delicious. One World Chang'an. Delicious. Meow Meow loves to eat chicken wings. QAQ, I finally get it. The anchor is trying to change my name every day. Can't stop hugging trees. It's delicious. Delicious. How can it be so delicious / following broadcasts to learn cooking. The outside is soft and the inside is crispy. The meat is delicious and the leaves of the vegetables are crisp and tender, and the sauce, my God, how can there be such a rich taste? I take a bite and feel like birds are flying in the air, the fishes are swimming under the sea. I can't write anymore, asking the anchor to accept me as a disciple. Honey Summer. Delicious. For a time, a large numbers of crystal flowers and colorful fireworks bloomed in the live room. Almost everyone was conquered by the delicious taste of this pancake. It was salty and sweet. A bite would release heat inside your mouth. The crispiness of the flatbread, with the softness of the eggs and the tasty and smooth tenderloin, the sauces tasted very rich was neutralized by the clear and sweet fresh vegetables. It had a pleasant taste that stayed in your mouth. Wan Tang had already done the rest of the crepes, 5 portions, just 5 people. Well, today we have 5 lucky viewers. After the live broadcast, I will send out my own handmade savory crepes. Barely passing. Seeking to win a prize. Can't stop hugging trees. Seeking to win a prize. +1, Meow Meow loves to eat chicken wings. Seeking a prize. +2, 7 treasures. Seeking to win a prize. +3. Opening the lottery function, Wan Tang quickly selected 5 lucky viewers from the online audience. He didn't know if it's a coincidence. The winners this time were all the old viewers who haven't won prizes before. Congratulations to Joyful Yulin, a touch of medical fragrance, Mo families Jade, Daima and Little Lazy. The prizes will be sent later. Please make sure to accept and receive. The unsuccessful viewers sent out a stretch of mourning as expected, and he could only comfort them by saying that they had another chance this evening. User, he gave the anchor a meteor shower. Seeing the familiar system notification, Yuan Tang didn't know why it made him smile a little. It couldn't be that this local tyrant room manager was saying that he also wanted to eat. Thank you, Yuan Tang said thanks with a smile and with a bit of mocking said, today, there is only 5 portions of savory crepes in total. Bribing the anchor won't work either. It was obvious that this statement was meant to be directed at someone. The entire live chat was suddenly an ocean of glee. Can't stop hugging trees. Anchor, thank you for teaching me that even if you have money, you can't just do whatever you please. Meow Meow loves to eat chicken wings. No, I'm really not laughing, hahaha. They laughingly and jokingly sent out a lot of comments, and also noticed how Yuan Tang unexpectedly didn't shut down the broadcast. Tonight, I will make braised meat noodles and a very delicious and nutritious drink. However, because the needed time for the earlier stage preparations is quite long, I need to do these preparations now. As Yuan Tang said that, he took out a small pouch of soybeans and soaked them in a large basin. These are soybeans, after we process these it will make a really delicious soy milk. But we need to soak them in water for several hours. We will leave this here and we'll come back to it later tonight. Right now, we're also going to boil these meat bones to make soup. Yuan Tang took out several large pieces of bones. After washing the bones with warm water, he used a big cleaver to split open the bones, exposing the dark red marrow inside. He placed the open bones inside the pot, added onions and ginger, and filled it to the brim with water before placing it on top of the stove to boil. The bones also need to boil for several hours. Tonight, you can all see how these 2 ingredients transform. Okay, today's broadcast ends here. See you all tonight. The author has something to say. Small Theater. He-Yun Chen. Unhappy asterisk, carrot. Chapter 15. Braised meat noodles and soy milk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 15. Braised meat noodles and soy milk. After happily scarfing down a delicious savory crepe and a glass of warm milk, Yuan Tang went to take a nap. After sleeping for 4 hours, Yuan Tang went to take a bath and saw his reflection in the mirror. He nodded his head in satisfaction. After several days of nursing his body with good food and sleep, his previously thin as a match body has improved to some extent. Although he was still very thin, there was now some meat on his bones. He no longer looked like a living skeleton and his complexion had turned rosy. He was sure he would no longer scare the living daylights out of the examiner once he goes to take the chef's examination 10 days later. After checking on the soaking soybeans and the boiling bone broth, he confirmed that both were almost ready and started the broadcast. Good evening, everyone. I am your anchor, Yuan Tang. Tonight we will be making braised meat noodles and soy milk. Meow Meow loves to eat crepes. The broadcast starting. The broadcast starting. I'm first. Can't stop hugging trees. I've been camping here the entire afternoon. Mo families Jade. The crepes were extremely delicious. Thank you, anchor. Because during this morning's broadcast, Yuan Tang had told them in advance what he would be cooking for the evening, these chow hounds all have been entrenched here the entire time. No sooner had he opened the broadcast than the entire live chat buzzed with activity. Now, let's take a look at the soybeans that we soaked this morning. Yuan Tang carried the big basin filled with soaking soybeans, giving the audience in front of the camera a look. The beans have soaked up a lot of water and have grown bigger. These look to be ready. Everyone can try pinching some to see how they've become softer. 7 treasures. It's true, they feel soft when you pinch them. Small transparent. They really have changed a lot from this morning. We can now make soy milk. It's really simple. We can use a blender to make this. Wan Tang poured out the water used to soak the beans. After the soybeans have dripped dry, he put them in the blender together with a big cup of clear water. He blended it a couple of times until it was thick. The scenery from my hometown. I never knew you could also get juice from soybeans. I thought you could only press juice out of fruits. That's right. You can also extract juice from all sorts of vegetables, like cucumbers and carrots for example. Both of them are good for your body. There were still a lot of impurities in the soy milk and it seemed to be very dense. Wan Tang tipped the blended soybeans onto a white cotton cloth that he had washed and disinfected in advance. He squeezed it hard, leaving the soybean dregs inside the cloth while squeezing out the filtered soy milk into the pot. Wan Tang didn't have enough strength in his hands, so he had let the smart butler, Xiao Bai, finish this step. He was very efficient and in just a short time he had already squeezed out half a pot's worth of soy milk. The April turtledove flicks its feathers. It feels so and it has a bit of a strange smell. Hidden moon. That's right. I took a taste and it's really sour. So disappointed. Everyone, please don't be impatient. This isn't done yet. Raw soy milk has the bad smell from the beans. We will need to boil this first and then this will quickly turn fragrant. Wan Tang placed the pot of soy milk on top of the stove and set the heat to high. The soy milk quickly started to boil and started to give off a pure and mellow fragrance. Wan Tang added a couple spoonful of sugar and then lowered the heat to let it boil slowly while constantly stirring. He then increased the heat again. He repeated this process 4 to 5 times and finally the soy milk has been boiled well. Wan Tang poured out a cup of steaming hot soy milk, considerately stirring with the ladle. Okay, now everyone can have a taste. Remember to blow on it before drinking so as not to burn your tongue. The boiled soy milk has now transformed into a dense and fragrant drink. It was no longer astringent. The amount of sugar Wan Tang added wasn't a lot. Because of the dense fragrance and faint sweetness of the soy milk, drinking a glass of this in the morning would make stomach feel comfortable. ENV, Hidden Moon. I take back what I said. Anchor, you are simply wonderful. Should one desire to sing, one would amaze the world with his first song. This crystal flower symbolizes my deep love for you. The April turtledove flicks its feathers. At first I couldn't get the proper way to drink this. The taste is really good. Treasure firefly. Smells so good. Tastes so good. And it's so easy to make. Right, making soy milk is very easy and convenient. Drink a glass in the morning, it's both healthy and nutritious. Everyone can learn for themselves. Soak a batch in the evening and in the morning you can make your soy milk. Wan Tang waited until everyone had a taste and then said, next, let's check the bones we started boiling this morning to make soup. Wan Tang opened the lid and the heavy meaty smell began to spread, making everyone's mouth salivate. You mustn't drink the soup yet, okay? I haven't added any seasonings yet. Wan Tang reminded them, seeming to know that some certain viewers wouldn't be able to hold back from impatiently sneaking a taste. Meow Meow loves to eat crepes. My claws were already hovering over it. Can't stop hugging trees. I am completely useless, Sci-fi. Wan Tang used a ladle to scoop out the foam that was floating on top and once again covered the pot. He took out the small half piece of white gourd that he purchased that morning and used water to wash it clean. He used his agile knife skills to peel and chop it into small pieces. He added the chopped white gourd into the pot along with half a scoop of sugar and a small scoop of vinegar before he let it continue stewing. Adding the white gourd with the soup would definitely be delicious. Once the white gourd has been boiled transparent, it will turn very soft and tender and will taste very fresh. Combined with meat, it can absorb the greasy smell from the meat soup. Delicious and nutritious, it was one of Ruan Tang's favorite soups. He then took out the flour, added some water and after kneading the dough well placed it in a preservation box and set it aside. We will now make braised meat. Ruan Tang took out his previously purchased pork belly. After carefully washing it, he placed it inside a separate pot and added clear water, using high heat to boil it. He took it out after 2 minutes. He once again rinsed the just boiled piece of meat. This way, you can remove most of the blood and impurities from the meat. It was an essential first step to get rid of the stench. Once the pork belly had been completely rinsed and it had cooled down, Ruan Tang sliced it into thin, flat strips. He put them into a small pot, added the washed onions and ginger, together with a combination of light and dark soy sauce and a scoop of sugar. He used high temperature to boil it after adding clear water. After it started boiling, he turned down the heat and continued to let it braise. We only need to let this boil for around 20 minutes. While the pork was cooking, Ruan Tang took the dough and started making pulled noodles. This time he made the noodles even thinner. Even though the audience had already seen this once before, it still didn't lessen their astonishment. There were even some of them, after having seen the anchor make it so easily, tried it out for themselves and consequently found that it was actually really difficult. The dough was so soft, one pull would cause it to drop and moreover, it was very easy to break. After making the noodles, he set about boiling them in a clean pot. Because these noodles were thin and very quickly cooked, after only boiling it for a bit, Ruan Tang already scooped it out. He placed the noodles in a previously prepared porcelain bowl. He carefully ladled onto it some of the bone broth with white gourd. A few pieces of glistening, jade-green pieces of white gourd also tumbled out. Even before he had added the meat, the rich smell had already started to waft about. Ruan Tang opened the pot with the braised meat. The pork belly had already turned into a reddish-brown color, glossy and shiny with fat, looking very beautiful. He poked it with his chopstick to ensure doneness before taking them out. He placed 2 strips over the top of the noodles and then sprinkled over it some green onions. A bowl of savory and steaming hot braised meat noodles was now done. The white porcelain bowl held the thick soup made from big meat bones. Inside the bowl were thin noodles with pieces of pale green white gourd dotted around and 2 big slices of reddish-brown pork belly covering the top of the noodles. The top layer of the entire bowl floated with a thin layer of glittering oil. Only at the very top was sprinkled a handful of chopped green onions like the finishing touches to a painting, making the entire bowl look vivid and lively. No need to even mention that sweet aroma assailing their nostrils. It was good enough to make people sin. This time they didn't need Ruan Tang's signal, the viewers already couldn't hold back from rushing in to eat. Following broadcasts to learn cooking. It's so delicious that the soup is so tasty, the meat so tender, the noodles so supple. I still want to eat. Meow Meow loves to eat crepes. Delicious. Delicious. Delicious, / can't stop hugging trees. QAQ anchor, you really won't open a shop. I'd be willing to pay 1,000 GM coins for a bowl of this noodles. 7 treasures. I'm crying while eating this. Small transparent. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. After eating these noodles, how can I continue drinking nutrient solutions? Small ginger. Anchor, are you also going to have a lottery this time? Yes, today 3 lucky viewers will get a bowl of my handmade braised meat noodles. Ruan Tang smiled while replying. Honey Summer. Praying to win a prize. A galaxy far far away. Praying to win a prize +1, Meow Meow loves to eat crepes. Praying to win a prize +2. The viewers in the live broadcast began to send out their daily prayers. User, he gave the anchor a meteor shower. He. Praying. Can't stop hugging trees. I never expected that even the local tyrant would send out prayers. Unfortunately, He-Yun Chen's prayers would have no effect. As before, the final list of winners didn't contain his name. Wan Tang suppressed his laughter, and said in all seriousness, "Congratulations Bronze, Chi Jiao Mo ran in a galaxy far far away. I will be sending out your prizes in a bit. Please make sure to check and receive." 3 out of several tens of thousands, the odds really were low. The many viewers who didn't win began their anguished wailing. "Can't stop hugging trees. I didn't win again. I'm so unhappy. Meow Meow loves to eat crepes. Hoo hoo hoo. I also didn't get a share. 7 treasures. 3 portions are so few. Isn't there still a pot of soup? No more noodles, drinking just the soup is also good enough." QAQ, there was indeed still quite a lot of soup. However, Wan Tang primarily made the soup for the noodles and didn't specifically set out to make just soup. Therefore, it had mostly meat bones and even the white gourd pieces weren't that many. There was a lot of soup but few vegetables, it looked really pitiful. However, looking at the barrage of crying comments, Wan Tang helplessly said, "Then let's draw 3 more names for the bone soup with white gourd." His voice was quiet and the live room suddenly burst in cheer. Small transparent. Long live the anchor. Drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night. The anchor is absolutely wonderful. Wan Tang smiled and shook his head. He once again opened the lottery function and picked 3 viewers. Congratulations to Ah-Cheng, following broadcasts to learn cooking, as well as he. I will be sending out your prizes in a bit. Please make sure to check and receive. Bribing had been of no use, this time his room manager had relied on luck to win a prize. Although it was only plain soup, it was still much better than nothing. Wan Tang couldn't help but smile a little while reaching out to close the broadcast. The broadcast ends here today, see you all tomorrow. The author has something to say. Small theater. He-Yun Chen. While others eat noodles, I'm drinking soup. When can I take the anchor home as my wife? He-Yun E. In your next life, slightly smiling face. Chapter 16. The Academy of Sciences Invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 16. The Academy of Sciences Invitation. The headquarters of the First Group Army. He had already finished giving his report, but Li Kai was still dawdling and still hadn't left He-Yun Chen's office. He-Yun Chen frowned slightly at him, as though asking him with his eyes if anything else was the matter. Congratulations on getting a prize, Marshal. Li Kai gave him a hopeful look. Your delivery will be arriving in a while, maybe you could give me a little bit. He-Yun Chen glanced at his subordinate and grudgingly said, My mother also knows that I've won a prize and told me to eat at home. Ah. For a moment, Li Kai stood there in a daze as though he couldn't understand why it was so, but he recovered shortly after. He hardened his expression and said, I understand, Marshal. I will be taking my leave. After finishing the work on hand, He-Yun Chen also left work. When he went down to the army building's gates, as expected, he was hailed by the officer at the security department, Marshal, we have your delivery. Thank you. He-Yun Chen took the delivery box and got on the suspended car waiting outside. The suspended car was very fast and in a little more than 10 minutes, managed to reach the He family mansion. Upon entering the door, he smelled the faint fragrance of cooking rice. It smelled a lot less scorched than before. Apparently, his mother had dedicated herself to improving her cooking skills. Aiken, you're home. Did your delivery arrive already? Ran Jing heard something astir and came out of the kitchen, eyes shining as she looked at her younger son. He-Yun Chen opened up his delivery. As expected, it was the extra-large type of preservation box. Inside was filled to the brim with soup along with a few pieces of bones with meat and white gourd. Did you have this box custom-made? He-Yun E happened to be coming down the stairs and he saw the box in He-Yun Chen's hands. he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Why is it that yours is always so much more than other people's? Yun Chen threw him a look and the corner of his lips ticked up. Room manager privilege. Ran Jing took out a big soup bowl from the kitchen and poured the plentiful soup with white gourd into it. Afterwards, she took out something that Yun Chen had never seen before. Aiken, here, take a look at this new kitchen utensil your brother's academy has recently researched. I used this automatic rice cooker to cook the rice today. I'm still studying how the anchor does it. First, you wash the rice. The rice that comes out of this is especially fragrant. Yun Chen couldn't help but nod his head. It did smell good. Seeing her younger son nod, Ran Jing's face showed a happy expression. I also bought some soybeans and have them soaking already. Tomorrow, I'll make soy milk for you all. Ever since they ate Wan Tang's cooking, the couple and their sons were now willing to eat natural foods, and this made Ran Jing very happy. On one hand, eating natural foods really would be beneficial for their bodies, and on the other hand she really liked the feeling of being able to chat and eat together with the entire family. These past few days she has been following along with Wan Tang's broadcast to learn how to cook, and her skills have improved. She was certain that in the future there would be more chances for the whole family to eat together like this. When she had scooped out the rice, He Wei Yi had also just arrived home. Lao He, come and eat, the soup today was made by that anchor. He Wei Yi took off his coat and walked towards the table with large strides and sat down. When everyone was seated they simply started to eat. Although there weren't any dishes, just some soup, but the soup was extremely tasty. The white gourd simply melted in the mouth and the bones had some meat on them, you could eat and nibble on it. Yun Yi even put his rice in with the soup and ate the rice and soup together. These bones that have been cleaved apart, appeared to have some gelatinous liquid inside. While gnawing on the bones, you could lick it by simply extending your tongue. It turned out to be so exceptionally delicious, you can't help but want to suck it all out. Seeing Yun Yi's boorish table manners, He Wei Yi immediately furrowed his brows. Dad, quick, taste it. This thing inside the bones is also delicious. Yun Yi sucked dry one of the bones but couldn't help getting another one. Compared to He Wei Ye's half-believing and half-skeptical manner, Yun Chen was more straightforward. He had learned from Yun Yi's actions and lightly sucked a mouthful. The rich bone marrow entered his mouth and the taste was even more delicious than the soup. It was overwhelmingly rich and it filled his entire mouth with its savory taste. He couldn't help but to use his tongue to lick between his teeth, chasing after the sweet aftertaste. In short order, the He family's dining room was filled with sucking sounds one after the other. One large bowl of soup and one large pot of rice was demolished by the He family. Gods, that tasted delicious. That little anchor's skills are something else. It's a pity our luck isn't so good. This would be even better if we got the braised meat noodles. Yun Yi leaned against the back of the chair, gently patting his stomach. Even better than that would be if we could make off with him and make him our family's chef. Yun Yi said this as he looked towards his mother. Mom, how about you try and get in touch with him? I can't do that. Ran Jing seriously shook her head. Previously when the platform had contacted Wan Tang it was under the request of the Chefs Association and they had followed protocol. However, if she were to contact him for personal reasons, it would be in direct violation of company rules. Abusing her position and invading another's privacy, these are things that she really can't do. Yun Yi, though, wasn't discouraged at all. After all, he had just blurted that out without thinking. His face showed a very smug smile, as though completely assured of success. Since the Chefs Association could get in contact with the anchor through the platform, why couldn't the Academy of Sciences? The next day, Wan Tang woke up to his light brain beeping. There was an incoming call. Looking at the number, it seemed to be the broadcasting platform employee that had called him previously. The Academy of Sciences. Once again, he has received a call from the broadcasting platform employee letting him know that the Academy of Sciences want to talk to him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The Chefs' Association was one thing, but what did the Academy of Sciences have to do with him? Although he thought this way, Yuan Tang didn't refuse. Back when he had made shrimp Xiaolong Bao, although the Academy of Sciences did it unintentionally, they did help him resolve a troublesome matter. Moreover, the standing of the Academy in the Empire could be considered both above and cut from all the rest. For the sake of each and everyone in the Empire, they out their utmost effort in their research. Including the ingredients and utensils he used in his broadcasts, all of these were things that the Academy restored. Yuan Tang had a favorable opinion of this institution. Very quickly, there came a call from an unfamiliar communication number. As soon as it connected, he heard a voice that seemed to carry a smile. "Hello, Yuan Tang. My name is He Yun-yi, the current president of the Academy." The president personally called him. Yuan Tang felt quite flattered. He couldn't help but ask, "Good morning. May I know why you are looking for me?" "You see, it's like this." He Yun-yi pushed down his smiling expression and in a deadly earnest manner said, "I think that you already know, but the Empire is currently vigorously pursuing natural ingredients and the food industry is in its most crucial stage. We need someone with consummate cooking skills to lead the advancement of the gourmet profession. Evidently, you are an extraordinarily suitable candidate. Are you willing to lead the Empire's culinary delicacies to glory?" Yuan Tang. What is with this second-year middle school kind of dialogue? He felt particularly embarrassed by the other's words and reminded him. "I think the Chefs' Association would probably be more suitable for this role that you're proposing." "Yes, but only if you're not willing." The corner of He Yun-yi's lips hooked up and he quickly followed it up with, "Truth be told, I'm actually a fan of yours. My whole family loves your broadcast and your food. I believe you have very innovative ideas regarding food and your use of cooking implements is simply outstanding. If you would be willing, we would love to have you as an advisor for the Academy. You won't need to appear personally, nor would you need to participate in the research. You would only need to provide your opinion and correspondence. If there is any food ingredient or utensils that you'd like but isn't in the market yet, you can suggest them and we can help you research them. This would be a win-win situation, don't you think?" Seeing that Yuan Tang gave no reaction, his voice suddenly turned sad. "It couldn't be that you're going to reject me, right?" Yuan Tang was a bit hesitant. He indeed didn't want to associate with these official institutions. He was always afraid that it might bring about some sort of trouble. If the other side directly raised this requirement, he might possibly directly refuse. However, he had already just refused the other and the other had also professed to being one of his fans, making him embarrassed to refuse again. He had always been very indulgent towards his fans. Moreover, compared to the first option, the second option seemed a lot easier to accept. If he could join the Academy of Science and not have the burden of responsibility, it would be beneficial and of no harm to him. Moreover, he could draw support from the Academy of Sciences, enabling the restoration of a few food ingredients that weren't available in this future world, like oyster sauce or chili bean paste, these kinds of condiments, century eggs which he wanted to eat before but couldn't, or tofu or even possibly a rice cooker, oven, a noodle maker and other implements like these. Just as He Yun-yi said, this was truly a win-win choice. After considering it for a moment, Yuan Tang nodded and said, "Okay, but for the time being I would like to keep our communication via online means, is that okay? After all, if he were to appear in public, as a film emperor, it is likely that his identity would be recognized. If he were to be recognized it could mean trouble." Of course, that would be okay. He Yun-yi was sat down in his chair in his office in the Academy, his body leaning against the soft backrest, looking as though he already has a well-thought-out plan in mind. Then, he set his actual objective: in order to have a better interaction and raise the efficiency of our food research, when we at this side manage to restore an ingredient and deem it safe we will immediately send you some. If you manage to research a way to cook it, could you also send us a portion or two? Yuan Tang didn't doubt his words, and straightforwardly agreed, that's fine. In a moment, I will give you my address. The smile on He Yunyi's face grew even bigger. In that case, to a delightful partnership. To a delightful partnership. The author has something to say. Small theater. He Yunyi, shooting a glance at his younger brother. Hey, idiot, watch and learn. Chapter 17. Eggplant 3 Ways. Side A. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 17, Eggplant 3 Ways, Side A. It was still so early in the morning, but he has already received 2 calls. When he had finished the call, he climbed out of bed and took a shower. The time was almost 10:30. It was now mid-June. Although there was air conditioning at home to keep the temperature constant, the summer heat still managed to creep in. He put on a thin shirt and thought of maybe preparing some refreshing desserts when he heard the doorbell ring. He walked towards the living room, and Xiao Bai had already signed for the express delivery. It was a small box. He didn't know what was inside, but it was quite a bit weighty. He looked at the sender. It turned out to be from the Academy of Sciences. Yuan Tang couldn't help but to be more curious. It couldn't be that they had come out with a new ingredient so quickly. He opened the box and found that it was a pot, one with a lid that could be flipped open. It was the essential item in every household during his previous life, a rice cooker. When he saw the familiar rice cooker, he couldn't help but take it out and hug it. The model that the Academy sent looked very good. Because it used the Interstellar Technologies heating system, its appearance was smaller and more exquisite than the models before. However, the capacity was still very large, and it was no problem to make enough rice for 7 or 8 people. With a rice cooker, no matter if it was making rice or boiling congee, it would be a lot more convenient. Not to mention that in the absence of an oven, he can replace it with the rice cooker and can bake a cake. However, cake was not suitable for lunch at noon, so it was included in his list of plans. Afterwards he logged into the shopping mall. He first went to the kitchen area and sure enough, the rice cooker has been put up for sale. If it is like so, then he can safely use it in the live broadcast. He was no longer afraid that it would be found out that he and the Academy had reached a partnership. Last night he had eaten a lot of meat, so Yuan Tang planned to eat a little lighter today. In his heart, he had already decided on a menu, and just happened to see that the eggplants in the shopping mall were all big and thick. He eggplant 3 ways. Now the weather was hot, and although he didn't know if the boron-based humans will also be susceptible to prickly heat, but the eggplant was mild and fragrant. Not only can it relieve internal body heat, but it also had the benefit of easing cardiovascular diseases. Without restraint, he bought 7 or 8 large eggplants, pork and a bunch of spices. After the express delivery arrived, the live broadcast was started. Hello everyone, I am your anchor, Yuan Tang, and today I want to cook for you eggplant 3 ways. Meow Meow loves to eat meat. First comment. I received a live broadcast notification and rushed in. Anchor, I love you. Can't stop hugging trees. Although I don't know what the anchor is going to cook, I always feel that it's going to be something amazing. Lu Yi Bai. I have eaten eggplant. It's the signature dish of the Rose restaurant. But what does 3 ways mean? Eggplant 3 ways means that we will be using eggplant as the main ingredient, but the eggplant will be cooked in 3 different ways to make a 3-course dish with completely different tastes. One is the Yuxiang eggplant with the sweet and sour taste, the other is a salty and delicious simmered eggplant, and lastly, there is also a crispy and delicious fried stuffed eggplant. I will make more of the stuffed eggplant, and it will be used for the lottery after the live broadcast. He smiled and explained. The April turtledove flicks its feathers. Shocked. The anchor is too powerful, right? Working the night shift every day. My God, the anchor is too awesome. Bang and chirp. Real. Or fake? I often go to the Rose restaurant and have never heard of these dishes. A touch of medicinal fragrance. The above commenter must be new. Laughs without saying anything. JPG, UGXIN remembers snow. Laughs without saying anything. JPG, ID 277911075. How can this live room be so peculiar? Although there were some not particularly harmonious voices, they were quickly drowned in the busy chat. After all, he wasn't money, it was normal for some people to not like or perhaps even question him. So, he paid them no mind and started cooking. Yuxiang eggplant will take more time to make it. So, he takes out 2 eggplants first, washed them with water, cut them into small pieces, and sprinkled with starch and salt and put them aside to marinate. Then he took a few more eggplants and cut them into round slabs, which will be used to make the stuffed eggplant. The last eggplant, he cut directly into pieces using a rolling cut, ready to be made into simmered eggplant. Fill the eyes with magnificent mulberries. Wow, even the cuts are different. Yes, different shapes have different cooking technique requirements. The degree to which they absorb taste is also not the same, so you should choose according to the situation. After processing the eggplant, the pork washed clean with a sharp knife minced into ground pork. Cut into minced meat. Ground pork would be used in all 3 dishes, so he divided them into 3 small portions and put them aside. We will first make simmered eggplant. Eggplant is more oil absorbing, so if you will be making it yourself, you should pay attention to put in some more oil. He said as he poured oil into the drying pan and began to heat it. When the oil was hot, Ruan Tang put in 1/3 of the minced meat, and quickly stir-fried it until it changed color. When he added the minced garlic and ginger, the oil began to pop and sizzle. A stimulating scent burst into the air, making the audience salivate. At this time, the eggplant that was cut using the rolling cut was put in. While frying, he used a spatula to press down a few times on the eggplant to force out the water inside the eggplant. He then added sugar, soy sauce and the right amount of salt for seasoning, then gently stir-fried a few times. The eggplant absorbed the oil juice and seasoning, and turned soft and wrinkled. The color became reddish-brown and the purple eggplant skin was soaked in oil and looked shiny, almost like it glows. The next step is to cook for half an hour at low temperature. Ruan Tang put the lid on the pan and turned the temperature down and left it alone. Today, the dishes goes very well with rice, so everyone, by all means, don't forget to cook a pot of fragrant rice. He said that as he took out the rice cooker he bought. When I visited the shopping mall, I saw this. This baby should be the new kitchen implement that the Academy of Science has just developed. It has only been out of a short time. Although the price is a bit expensive, it is really very convenient, whether it is cooking rice or making porridge. It can even be used for stew and soup. He said these not to advertise the Academy of Sciences, but because he really thinks that this kitchenware is very useful and want to share it with the audience who have always supported him. Using a rice cooker was very simple, even a klutz could use it by themselves and come out with simple and delicious food. He took out the inner pot of the rice cooker, put in the appropriate amount of rice, and gave it a wash. He then added twice the amount of water and put it back to the rice cooker, and then pressed the cooking button. I wish for tranquility. Anchor, anchor. Look here. How do you add water for this rice cooker? I used it to cook at home once, but not everything was cooked. Half was cooked and half was raw. And the bottom was mush. What happened? QAQ, he looked at his question and explained. Your rice became half cooked, it happened because the water was not enough. Generally speaking, the appropriate amount of water would be no more than a finger width more than the rice. If you like it drier, just put a little less, if you like it stickier, just put a little more. A safe estimate would be to put twice the amount of rice. As for the problem of the burning the rice cooker has an electrical safeguard built in. When the rice is cooked it will change to keep warm mode and so you won't need to worry about it burning. You could just leave it there. Following broadcasts to learn cooking. Yes, I have tried it last night, and it's very easy to use. Gold coins fall down. 2,500 GM coins, it seems a bit expensive. Small transparent. But it's very convenient, with this, I can cook too. I've decided to buy one. Clear and cold. What kind of anchor is this? How come there's still ads? Could it be that the shopping mall gave you an advertising fee? Joyful Yulin. Hashtag O, to the commenter above, are you sick? Seeing that the live chat was noisy again, the familiar meteor shower appeared once again in the live room. User, he gave the anchor a meteor shower. I tried using it last night and it was very easy to use. Seeing local tyrant room manager, Wan Tang couldn't help but to reveal a faint smile. The eggplant should almost be finished marinating. Let's make the Yuxiang eggplant next. Wan Tang took out the marinated eggplant and gave it a quick fry in the frying pan, removed it and drained the oil. He then continued to add the scallions, ginger and garlic to the pan. In fact, there should also some chili peppers added, but unfortunately peppers have not yet been restored, so he could only do it like this for now. After that, the minced meat was added in. Once the meat had browned evenly, added the dark soy sauce, sugar, a small spoonful of vinegar. He poured in the cornstarch slurry to thicken the sauce. As Wan Tang continued to stir-fry, the sweet and sour aroma suddenly gushed forth. Meow Meow loves to eat meat. Wow wow, before I knew it my mouth was starting to water. It must be delicious. Can't stop hugging trees. Me too. But why did the anchor leave out the fish? I didn't see any fish. Seeing the audience's questions, Wan Tang felt both amused and annoyed. In his past life there were a lot of funny skits about food, such as why there were no ants in trees, ground pork with sweet potato noodles, or why there were no lions in the lion's head, a kind of meatball, and no wives in the wife's cake, a type of filled pastry, and so on. Out of curiosity, he also read a lot of information in this regard. It is said that in the ancient times of old Earth, when people roasted fish, they liked to put some scallions, ginger, garlic, vinegar and soy sauce to get rid of the fishy smell and to season it. When they were making other dishes, in order not to waste the ingredients, they would use the leftover ingredients for the roasted fish. Put it in, and the result is a dish with a unique flavor. Yuxiang or fish fragrance was named after that. He smiled and said, so the Yuxiang eggplant is just a dish name, and there is actually no fish. Drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night. Wow, really? The anchor even knows this. Could it be that he's studying ancient Earth history? Lazy Snow. I'm studying ancient Earth history and I have never heard of this. It couldn't be that the anchor is just making it up. Small Ginger. But we have never before eaten these dishes made by the anchor. It is impossible for the anchor to just make up so many dishes. I think the anchor may be in possession of some old culinary family's rare recipe book. Or possibly the heir of that family. Can't stop hugging trees. I think the above commenter has a big hole in her head, but somehow I still think it might be possible. Chapter 18. Eggplant 3 Ways. Side B. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 18. Eggplant 3 Ways. Side B. There was no pause in the anchor's stir-frying, no matter what the live chat was discussing or guessing. The Yuxiang eggplant is done, you can come and taste it. Wan Tang ladled the Yuxiang eggplant onto a porcelain bowl and sprinkled some chopped green onions on top. He called the audience to come and taste it. The attention of the arguing audience was immediately drawn to the steaming hot Yuxiang eggplant, and the sweet and sour aroma was extremely tempting. Meow Meow loves to eat meat. My God! It's so good. Can't stop hugging trees. To the above commenter, I think you may have to change your name again. Laughing Crying.jpg, Lu Yi Bai. It's delicious, it's better than the steamed eggplant in the Rose restaurant. Chinese cuisine paid particular attention to smelling, looking, and tasting great. Although these interstellar viewers didn't understand this, but with the food's visuals, smell and taste, the stimulation and enticement from these three aspects, they nevertheless could indulge in it wholeheartedly. The taste of the fried meat dish was already tempting, and the rosy brown minced meat was placed in a bowl with a strip of eggplant in between. It only looked soft and tender, and the whole bowl was orange brown. The oily light, together with the chopped green onion, is even more oily but not greasy. Put a bite in the mouth, the eggplant strips are fried and tender, and the eggplant still hot is incredible. Even if the teeth are slightly numb, it is reluctant to let go. The sweet and sour taste is mellow, especially with the addition of meat, which adds a meaty flavor to the eggplant. Bang and chirp, I was wrong, the anchor's cooking gets full marks. Rose Restaurant. What's that? Clear and cold. Hey, it seems very delicious. Should one desire to sing, one would amaze the world with his first song. This crystal flower is my deep love for you. At this time, Yuan Tang had already started to make stuffed eggplants. He first poured the remaining meat into a large bowl, adding salt, soy sauce, minced ginger, minced scallions and flour, stirring vigorously until the seasoning was fully integrated with the meat. Then he took another bowl, poured a little flour, added eggs and pepper, and a small amount of water. He stirred it into a uniform batter. Yuan Tang picked up on the eggplant pieces that he had sliced. At this time, the audience discovered that each of these eggplant pieces had a portion that was still stuck. 7 treasures. Hey, it seems that a lot of the eggplant slices weren't cut through. Did the anchor do this intentionally? Small transparent. It should be intentional. The anchor is so powerful, it's impossible for him to make such a low-level mistake. ID 277911075. It's obviously a slicing mistake. You brainless fans are still shooting your mouths off. Hilarious. Vivian Fong. Isn't the commenter above one of the previous professional sunspots? This familiar ID really makes me want to laugh. The scenery from my hometown. Everyone should remember that when slicing, it should be one deep cut followed by one shallow cut. So that you get these pieces that are still connected. If it is completely sliced through, it will be easily separate when you fry it. Then he picked up a piece of eggplant. He spread the meat in the middle and dipped it evenly in the batter. He waited until all the eggplants are stuffed with meat and wrapped in the batter before taking out a clean pot and filling half the pot with cooking oil. When the oil started to bubble, he lowered the temperature and then put in the eggplant. The stuffed eggplants were placed one by one along the side of the pot. When putting in the eggplant, it is best to slide it down the side of the pot instead of directly putting it in. This is to prevent the oil from splattering. The eggplant sizzled in the pot, and the batter slowly turned yellow. A strong aroma slowly began to spread. After the eggplants were fried golden on both sides, they were taken out one by one. The stuffed eggplants were dried of oil and then placed in a white porcelain dish. They looked a little unimpressive, just as small cakes of yellow, wrapped in an uneven surface. But it did give off the sweet smell of meat. Thinking of the eggplant and minced meat wrapped in it, everyone looked forward to it. They even began to feel that outer covering had some meaningful implication. This is the stuffed eggplant. Everyone can have a taste, but be careful not to get burned. Meow Meow loves to eat meat. My God! I'm in heaven. How can there be such a delicious thing? Can't stop hugging trees. My tears are falling. Will this be used in the lottery? I am willing to offer half my month's salary. Anchor, please open a back door for me. 16 nights. In your dreams. Anchor, look here, look here. Give me a back door. QAQ. The newly deep-fried stuffed eggplants had an outer skin that smelled faintly of egg and had a bit of crispiness. The eggplant wrapped in it was tender and juicy and the meat was exceptionally delicious. With one bite the flavor and texture combined in their mouths. It had a deliciousness that could make people ascend to heaven. Yuan Tang took out a small dish of ketchup. If you want a taste to be richer, you can try dipping them in a bit of ketchup. He was a native of the South, and his taste preferences leaned towards the sweet. Therefore, he always liked to add some sugar when cooking. He also liked to eat the stuffed eggplants with a little ketchup or sweet and sour sauce. The simmered eggplant is also done, let's take a look. When the lid was opened it gave out an enticing aroma. The audience was completely impressed by the previous two dishes and they were even more hopeful for this third dish. He had just taken out the simmered eggplant but there was already someone in the live chat sighing about how delicious it was. Looks like some viewers just couldn't wait. The simmered eggplant was cut using a rolling cut. Because there was no beef powder, Yuan Tang included a little bit of meat inside. The eggplant was not peeled and now, when it was scooped out of the pot, the eggplants looked like snare drums, floating in gleaming broth. The drum's surface is clean and slightly wrinkled. With one glance, you could see that it had been braised until it was delicious. Impatiently taking a bite, the first to hit the tongue would be the meaty tasting oil and broth. The tongue would suck all the juices from the vegetable and it would slide down the throat. The teeth would then lightly bite into the vegetable. The faint fragrance of the eggplant mixed with the dense tastiness of the meat would conquer your mouth in an instant. Especially when you bite down on the ground meat interlaced with fat and lean portions layering on the surface of the eggplants. The meat was soft yet springy, and yet it didn't overwhelm the star of the show. It was truly a hard-to-come-by delicacy. Meow Meow loves to eat eggplant. Starting from today, eggplant is my favorite vegetable. Can't stop hugging trees. It's so delicious, these three dishes are all so delicious. Following broadcasts to learn cooking. The simmered eggplant is soft and tender, super tasty, extremely delicious. If there was a pot of fragrant white rice next to it, I would definitely be able to finish it all. Joyful Yulin. Agreed. I have decided to buy the rice cooker. What if I win the prize and don't have any rice? Can't stop hugging trees. To the commenter above, shameless. That prize is mine. 3 ways of cooking eggplants, each with its own distinct flavor. That Yuan Tang's cooking skills were good need not be mentioned. For a time, various crystal flowers and colorful fireworks bloomed across the screen. The audience seemed to feel that this was all they could do to vent their excitement. These were delicious dishes that were even better than the Empire's most exclusive Rose restaurant. They felt even more proud to be standing such an anchor. Honey Summer. Praying to win a prize. Barely passing. Praying to win a prize +1, drinking plain boiled water in the middle of the night. Praying to win a prize +2, the daily prayers have begun again, which seems to have become a regular phenomenon in Yuan Tang's live broadcasts. Now I am going to draw 5 lucky viewers and give some stuffed eggplant that I made myself. He said that as he opened the lottery function and quickly pulled out 5 IDs. Congratulations to the scenery from my hometown, 16 Nights, Yun Yen, Empty Words, and Jiu Yi Lu Li. The packages will be sent later, remember to check and receive it. The winning rate was too low. The viewers who failed to win the prize were disappointed. But he was also helpless. After all, he was only a single person and couldn't meet the needs of every viewer. Today's live broadcast ends here, everyone, see you tomorrow. The live broadcast was closed off, and with the help of Xiao Bai, the fried stuffed eggplants were put into the preservation boxes. At the same time, he did not forget to leave a portion of each dish to be sent to the Dean of the Academy of Sciences. Today, the other party had sent a rice cooker, and this was his way of returning the favor. In addition, he also wanted to reflect with the Academy of Sciences regarding the restoration of tofu, preserved eggs and other such ingredients. After all, those needed brine, amino acids, lime or other such things, that were not convenient for him to handle. Sending things out in turn, he stretched out his arms. Feeling sleeping, he decided to take a nap. Yun Chen came home from work, and found a courier package on the table. It seemed to have been received by the smart butler. Looking at the familiar packaging and food labeling, Yun Chen couldn't help but reach out and tear open the package. After seeing the fresh and hot eggplant dishes inside, his face couldn't help but smile. The address associated with his account on the platform was the military headquarters. Although he doesn't know how the other found out his home address, he subconsciously overlooked this doubtful point and felt happy having received Ruan Tang's special care. He still really is a little jellybean, he couldn't help but think sweetly. At this time, Yun had just walked downstairs and saw that his younger brother was holding the preservation box with a captivated smile on his face. He suddenly realized what the other must be thinking. Pretending that he hadn't found out anything, Yun slowly walked downstairs and solemnly inspected the dishes in the preservation box. He nodded. Today is eggplant. There's actually 3 dishes and rice. Not bad, not bad. Yun had interrupted him, and he hadn't paid attention to the name of the recipient on the delivery label. He said in a slightly flaunting tone, "Of course it's good." "Yes, I think so too." Yun's smile widened. "Now, let me see who the recipient is." Yun Chen spoke without thinking, who else could it be? A black and white delivery label was nastily shoved in his face. Yun, in a sing-song voice, said, "Oh, yes, who else? Of course, it can only be mine." "Oh no. You couldn't have thought that the anchor sent it to you, right? After all, he doesn't even know you." His constantly expressionless little brother's face couldn't help but to slightly distort. Seeing this, Yun couldn't help but laugh. "Ha ha 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 ha, my silly brother, you still don't know. This morning, your darling little jellybean become a consultant to the Academy of Sciences." Yun Chen sat down without saying a word, waiting for the Ran Jing and Wei Yi to come back for dinner. However, was completely unwilling to even glance at Yun's direction. "Humph, so angry. The author has something to say." "Li Kai. I don't know why, but I feel very happy." Revenge.jpg. Chapter 19. The assessment has commenced. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 19. The assessment has commenced. When Ran Jing and Wei Yi came back, they saw that the 2 brothers were having a tiff. This scene was no longer anything strange to them. Ever since he was young, Yun Chen had always been more serious and proper, and Yun often teased him. On several occasions, Yun had even teased him to tears. When the 2 brothers grew up, Yun Chen began to fight back against Yun. However, Yun took advantage of their difference in bodily constitution and made a quasi-accident, so that Yun Chen didn't dare to hit him. Anyway, over the years, the 2 brothers grew up constantly bickering and raising a fuss, but contrary to appearances, their feelings were deeper than those of other brothers. Ruan Tang had sent a lot of dishes this time. Ran Jing cooked a pot of rice and the entire family ate their fill of the eggplant dishes. When he finished the meal, Yun Chen took a shower. With only a bath towel around his waist and water from his hair dripping down his contoured face, he sat down on the bed. He absent-mindedly wiped away the water from his face and began to think about how he could reach Ruan Tang. Evidently, it was not enough to just send gifts through the live broadcast room. If he wanted to occupy a place in his heart, Yun Chen must establish a realistic connection with him. There was a loud and noisy dialogue from a TV series coming from downstairs. Although the sound was not very loud, it was still quite clear to his ears. Yun Chen recalled, wasn't Ruan Tang a film emperor before? An actor who had just won the highest award for a male actor, at his most promising time, had suddenly met with a mishap. After sleeping for 5 years, his original popularity and connections have all basically disappeared. Could it be that there was still some bitterness in Wan Tang's heart? Remembering the two slender wrists he had noticed in the recordings, he couldn't help but feel a bit distressed. The anchor was still a child, it hadn't been too long since he became an adult. He had struggled alone for so long, and experienced such ups and downs. How much sadness did he harbor in his heart? I can help him. This thought took root in He Yun Chen's heart and quickly thrived. Even if Wan Tang went back to acting and could no longer do the live broadcasts, but as long as he was happy, there was nothing more important. Thinking this way, He Yun Chen opened his light brain and contacted several of his friends who were in entertainment companies. As the son of the entertainment queen, Ran Jing, his network of connections weren't limited to just the military. With He Yun Chen's identity, all he had to do was speak and there was basically nothing that can't be done. In just a few short days, several electronic scripts were sent to He Yun Chen's hand. He removed all the scripts that had dangerous combat scenes and removed some that included scenes displaying intimate affection. He then barely managed to pick out 2 scripts that were still suitable for his intentions. Although the lineup for 2 scripts weren't luxurious, the scripts were very good. If Wan Tang wanted to come back, it was impossible to get a commercial blockbuster with his current popularity. But as a former movie emperor, it was impossible for him to degrade his worth and play the 3rd or 4th lead or some common support role. In this case, those movies with good characters and script that were leaning towards being an art movies were the better choice. Wan Tang would return to the screen after 5 years through a niche market but spectacular art film. Coupled with his rising popularity as a cooking anchor and He Yun Chen's efforts to spread the word through his entertainment circle contacts, the topic of Wan Tang's return would surely spark off a big wave of interest. By means of this shareholders' backing, Wan Tang could easily bid farewell to his current lifestyle and have a magnificent return. After He Yun Chen figured out how to create momentum for Wan Tang and let his path go smoothly, he opened the live broadcast room as was his custom. However, after waiting a bit he noticed that the live room was still dark and no one was there. However, there was a notice in the live broadcast room, which read that the anchor had gone to participate in the Chefs Association's level assessment test, so the live broadcast was suspended for 1 day. He Yun Chen was startled. After counting the days, it was indeed the day of the Chefs Association's monthly assessment. The anchor was preparing to test for the chef's certificate. He couldn't help but frown, remembering the group of sunspots before. Although they've been dealt with by Ran Jing, having the IPs of these people banned, but the main instigator behind these people was a senior executive of the Chefs Association. He has to consider the safety of the anchor. Before, the anchor and this instigator had no direct contact. This person wanted to rely on public opinion to ruin the reputation of the anchor. Now, Wan Tang himself would be in the other's territory, would the other party let him go so easily? Thinking about this, He Yun Chen immediately stood up and strode out the door. He didn't even change out of his military uniform. With one long stride, he sat inside the suspended car. No matter who they were, if they dared to cause any grievance to the anchor, then they were setting themselves against their He family. Wan Tang rode the suspended car and arrived early at the location of the Chefs Association's assessment. It looked like there were a lot of people who came to take the test. The sky was blotted black with the huge number of suspended cars. It was a spectacular sight. The suspended cars had an intelligent system for unified control, so the process of landing and getting off the vehicle was carried out in an orderly manner. There was no messy traffic jam scenes like the ones in his past life. 10 minutes later, he got out of the car and saw the huge building with the sign of the Chefs Association branch number 133, and went inside. He had almost recovered his previous appearance, but to avoid any incidents, he donned on black-rimmed glasses that he had prepared in advance, and only wore a simple white shirt and trousers. The temperament and dress of the original body's owner must have been more eye-catching. With the way he was doing things now, his temperament was entirely different from that of the original owners. Plus his current body shape was much thinner than before. In others' eyes, he would simply have a good resemblance to the original owner, but no one would guess they were the same person. There was a smart scanner at the entrance of the Chefs Association's entrance. You only needed to tap the light brain to the sensor to complete the check.in and log in your information. Yuan Tang joined the flow of people entering the massive hall, waiting for the assessment to start. The reception hall was round, and the candidates were waiting in the designated waiting area in the center. There were small rooms all around, where each of the candidates would complete their test. After the signing.in was completed, the light brain received an electronic document titled Assessment FAQs, which detailed some of the information related to the assessment. The Chefs Association's assessment test required using the ingredients provided by the association to make a variety of dishes. These ingredients could be mixed and used together, or they could be used separately to make an independent dish, depending on how the candidate wanted to do it. However, each ingredient used as an examination topic must be used as the main ingredient of the dish. Although it can also be used as an auxiliary dish, candidates weren't allowed to mix in only a bit of the ingredient just so they could satisfy the requirement through a loophole. As for how many dishes would be presented, this also depended on the candidate's plans. If the variety was good enough and the taste was good, the candidate could get a red excellent stamp on the back of the star.rank certificate. The presence of this stamp would mean the difference between heaven and earth amongst chefs of the same rank. The 1-star rank assessment requirements were relatively simple. 5 ingredients were needed. 2 stars needed 15, while 3 stars needed 20.5. For each additional star, the number of ingredients that the candidate needed to be able to cook would increase by 10, and the value of the chef would double. But the test for 4 stars and 5 stars were not so simple. In addition to the amazing number of 40.5 ingredients to be cooked, there were also requirements for the quality and taste of the dishes. And if you wanted to be a 5-star chef, your ability to innovate new dishes was naturally very important. You had to have at least developed more than 10 dishes, and you also needed to go through the approval of the Chefs Association's senior body. If more than half approved, you can then become a 5-star ranked chef. The empire had been promoting natural ingredients for 30 years. In the past 2 decades, there have been only a dozen 5-star chefs, one of which was the current president of the Chefs Association, Gu Luji. Even the 4-star chefs, there were only 100 people. In contrast to the interstellar population of 100 billion people, this 100 people were more precious than the giant pandas in the zoos during his previous life. The finished dishes produced during the test would first tested by the machine to confirm that it's safe to eat. After confirming that there was no problem, several examiners would taste it. If the food produced by the candidate can be approved by the examiner, the candidate will be able to pass the assessment. If the examiner's approval was not obtained, the assessment will be considered a failure. In order to ensure the fairness of the assessment, all assessment content would be recorded in the form of holographic data, and then uploaded to the official website of the Chefs Association, open to all the empire's people. This was to prevent cheating and other corrupt practices. In general, it was very difficult to mix all kinds of ingredients together and come out with something definitely delicious. Therefore, most candidates would choose to make each ingredient into a single dish. But for Yuan Tang, it was not too difficult. He was calmly waiting for the assessment to begin, and the conversations of the other candidates continued to flow into his ears, and then he heard the continuous exclamations from the side. Ah! It's over! It's over! The Academy has just launched new ingredients. 2 of them. Heavens! They wouldn't put it in the assessment, would they? Someone quickly answered him in a despairing tone, it's possible. The subject of the assessment will be drawn from the shopping site at the time of the assessment, regardless of whether it is new or not. As he said this, he could not help but mourn, Academy of Sciences, why today? Why would you release new ingredients just before the start of the assessment? When he heard about the release of new ingredients, Yuan Tang instantly made a guess. He opened the shopping site and as expected, front and center, were a pair of green and red peppers. His eyes involuntarily shone. Whether it was ground into chili powder as a seasoning, or used as a complement or directly stir-fried as a main dish, chili peppers were delicious. The stinging and stimulating taste would make people addicted to it. In fact, because he had the status of a consultant for the Academy of Sciences, he had already received the sample peppers from Hyuni last night. He tasted a bit and the taste was quite pure. It had ample water content, and had a touch of sweetness. The taste must be stunning. He had intended to make a spicy dish in the live broadcast tomorrow, but it seems that this plan may be executed ahead of schedule. The assessment started very quickly. The serial number of each room and the number of the candidate are displayed on the big screen of the waiting area. Candidates only needed to check the number of their own assessment room. After waiting for 2 rounds or so, it was finally Ruan Tang's turn. According to the prompt of the big screen, Ruan Tang came to the door of the room corresponding to his own number, and after verification by the light brain induction method, the door of the room was instantly opened. When he walked in, he found that the room was much larger than he thought. It was a large kitchen, and all the kitchen utensils were available and placed neatly. At this time, a reminder popped up on Ruan Tang's light brain, telling him the 5 randomly selected ingredients: red pepper, green pepper, egg, fish head and pig liver. Then a small door opened from the left wall and an intelligent robot handed over a box to Ruan Tang. Apparently this contained the 5 ingredients that he needs to use for this assessment. Ruan Tang opened the box, and saw the big red chili pepper and the green bell pepper, 5 eggs, 2 big fish heads and a big piece of pig liver. All he has to do now was to make delicious food with these 5 ingredients. Grandmother's chili eggs, la jiao y padan, chopped pepper fish head, duo jiao yu tu, and green pepper with pig's liver. Almost instantaneously, Ruan Tang was able to come out with the appropriate recipes. However, what Ruan Tang didn't know was that in the monitoring room at the other end, someone was directing a malicious smile at him. "Oh, Ruan Tang, even if you are very capable, let's see what you can make with these things." Ever since Chijua saw the name Ruan Tang on the list of candidates who signed up, he had paid particular attention to him. He had personally requested to be assigned as the test evaluator for Ruan Tang's assessment venue. He was going to resolutely spew out vitriol. All these excellent ingredients were carefully selected by himself to ensure that Ruan Tang could never pass the assessment. "President, this pepper is the ingredient that the Academy of Sciences had just announced today. Are we immediately going to use it in the assessment?" One of his subordinates showed a worried expression. "Is there anything wrong? Entering the new ingredients in the database is completely compliant with standard operations. He was unlucky enough to draw the peppers, who can he blame?" Chijua said with a cold smile. "This time I must let that old man Gu know just what kind of garbage he took a fancy to. He couldn't even pass the initial level assessment. He wants to train that Ruan Tang to take the position that should belong to me. Well, he's going to have to be able to get into the association first. But isn't it too much to give him scrap ingredients like fish head and pig liver? In case people find out that we tricked the system, it would cause a lot of trouble. After all the assessment process was to be recorded and uploaded to the official website. The ingredients that were allotted to Ruan Tang were very difficult to cook with, and it was so excessively coincidental that it would be easy for people to see that something was wrong. Once something does go wrong, Chijua naturally didn't have to worry, it would be small fries like him that would suffer the brunt of the damage. "What are you afraid of? Didn't you give him eggs? Even if he just fries that, then at least one dish would pass, wouldn't it? We're practically giving him free points." Chijua squinted his eyes, annoyed. "Maybe you're worried about him." No, I'm just worried it will affect your prestige." "Humph," Chijua snorted and turned his eyes back to the surveillance video. After being scolded by Chijua, the man had no choice but to close his mouth, and he looked at Ruan Tang in the surveillance video with a complicated look. Considering his position, he had to stand by Chijua, but in terms of what would benefit him, it was not necessarily so. If Yuan Tang enters the association, there would be no disadvantage to him. Even if Yuan Tang really became the successor to the president, then he could even create a favorable impression as one of the examiners, but Yuan Tang's failure meant that he might be questioned later and even be used as a scapegoat. He stole a glance at Chijua's expression and saw that the other still looked as though he was watching entertainment drama unfold. Therefore, he too turned his eyes back to the assessment room, praying that Yuan Tang would give a good showing, not enough to pass the assessment but not badly enough to be ugly. But looking at those 5 ingredients, he couldn't help but have a bitter taste in his mouth. Not to mention the fact that those chilies were only just released by the Academy today, but when they got their hands on them in advance, the taste was so frightening. Just a small mouthful would cause the entire mouth to feel numb with pins and needles. And maybe it was because his finger touched something on the pepper, but after, when he touched his face and eyes, it felt like those places were burning. It hurt like hell. Exactly what part of this could people eat? This was clearly a biochemical weapon. There were also the 3 other ingredients. Besides the egg, which was a normal ingredient, which part of the fish head and pork liver could you eat? When cooking fish and pork in the restaurants, both of these were simply thrown out. However, strictly speaking, these scrap parts that can't be eaten, are actually considered as food ingredients. As a result, they were included amongst this month's assessment. Together with those terrifying chilies, let alone making a delicious dish, just making a dish that was non-poisonous and edible could already be considered as a blessing from heaven. It seemed that he was going to have to carry this pot. Thinking like this, the man's face can't help but make a bitter face. He made up his mind, no matter what, he's going to push everything on Yuan Tang's own bad luck. After all, no one could predict this thing called luck. At this time, Yuan Tang began to act. In the assessment, all the spices and condiments sold in the market were available, and accessory ingredients such as onion, ginger and garlic were also placed on the table. Yuan Tang washed the pig liver first and then cut it into thin slices. He took out a pot and put in clean water for soaking. This still had to be soaked for at least 30 minutes, so he began to process the fish head. He evenly spread salt, ground pepper and scallion ginger juice onto the fish head, and let it marinate it for a few minutes to let the fish head absorb the flavor. Next, Yuan Tang filled a stock pot with water, added a little cooking oil, and put in ginger slices and chopped scallion. The 2 aromatics sunk soundlessly to the bottom of the pot. The examiner helplessly shook his head. Sure enough, it was too much to deal with this kind of scrap ingredient, so Yuan Tang even gave up and just prepared to boil it into soup. Chijua jeered even more, what kind of thing is this? Young people these days. Since the pot is cracked, might as well break it. Hilarious. The subordinate couldn't help but shake his head. He could already foresee the failure of this young man. They watched as Yuan Tang gently put in the fish and used high heat to boil it. He used a ladle to scoop out the floating scum and then covered the pot, letting it stew under low heat. They helplessly shook their heads. It was the simplest way to make soup. No matter what ingredients were used, you could eat it after boiling. But doing it like this basically ensured that the dish wouldn't be a delicious delicacy. What's more, what Yuan Tang got was just a fish head. He couldn't cut it, he couldn't fry it. Besides throwing it in whole, what other way could this poor guy think of? The man looked at Chijua and thought darkly in his heart. Yuan Tang, if you want to blame someone then blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have offended. Yuan Tang had no idea about the situation in the monitoring room. The fish head soup had already been cooking for half an hour, so he started on making the grandmother's chili eggs. He first cut the red pepper into small pieces, then sliced the garlic and cut the green portion of the spring onions. He cracked open 3 eggs into the bowl, and quickly beat them with chopsticks until a layer of bubbles appeared on top. When the oil in pan was hot, the eggs are poured into it. When frying the eggs, he deliberately put in more oil, so that the eggs would come out fluffier and tenderer, and it wouldn't stick to the pan. He fried the eggs until both sides were golden yellow, and then scooped it out and cut it into even pieces. Then he put the thin garlic slices into the pan and fried it under low heat until it was fragrant. He then took it out of the pan and set it aside for later use. There was still a thin layer of oil left at the bottom of the pan. Instead of washing the pan clean, Yuan Tang directly put in the red pepper slices and let them react fully with the oil infused with egg and garlic flavors. After the pepper was cooked, he added back in the garlic and egg pieces to stir-fry together. After seasoning with a small amount of soy sauce, sugar, salt and aromatic vinegar, he put in chopped green onions and stir-fried a few more times under high heat. Soon after, a plate of delicious grandmother's chili egg was finished. At this time, the simmering fish head soup was almost finished. The fish soup had completely turned a milky white, exuding a seductive aroma. He fished out the ginger and shallots from the pot and seasoned it with salt and pepper, and finally added ginger shreds and chopped green onion. The rich and fragrant fish head soup was ready. At this time the pig liver was also fully soaked already. The blood had completely diluted with the water, so Yuan Tang simply poured out the bloody water, and then the pig liver was repeatedly washed until no blood seeped out. After the pig liver was allowed to drip dry, he put it in a bowl and add seasonings such as salt, starch, light soy sauce, vinegar, pepper and sugar. He stirred them together well and then put it to one side to rest. While heating a pan of oil, Yuan Tang quickly chopped up the chives and green bell peppers. When the oil was completely hot, he put in the pig's liver and stir-fried it until it gradually turned white. He then took it out of the pan. The oil remaining in the pan was then used to stir-fry the chopped chives and green peppers. When it started to exude a delicious fragrance, he put back in the pig's liver. After quickly sautéing them together, the dish was done. 1 soup and 2 dishes. One was the bright and colorful, red and yellow chili eggs, while the other was the green peppers with pork liver. After having undergone Yuan Tang's treatment, even the originally disgusting pork liver looked a lot more palatable. With a bowl of milky white fish soup to the side, it seemed like no one could find fault in these 3 dishes. After putting the 2 dishes and soup side by side on the countertop, Yuan Tang looked towards the camera and said, "It's done." Chapter 20. The Marshal has arrived. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 20. The Marshal has arrived. The smart robot advanced forward and conducted a scan and sampling test on the dishes Yuan Tang had just finishing cooking. After no more than 5 minutes, the robot pronounced the dishes as qualified. Next, it took out a tray and loaded onto it Yuan Tang's 3 dishes and started to leave through the door that it came in through. At the same time, it beckoned towards Yuan Tang to follow. The small door opened and revealed the suspended board. When Yuan Tang stepped on top of it, it slowly ascended to the upper floor. The evaluation room was on the 3rd floor. When the suspended board stopped, he alighted and followed behind the smart robot through a ring-like hallway. He entered the large meeting room. Yuan Tang saw 3 people wearing the white chef's uniform seated inside the room. These should be the examiners. Are you Yuan Tang? Among them, a man with a straight mustache with his eyes narrowed, faced towards him and asked. I am. This type of attitude definitely couldn't be considered friendly, but Yuan Tang didn't think much about it, simply thinking that this examiner was relatively more serious. Mustachioed man once again asked, "These are your 3 dishes?" "That's right," said Yuan Tang. "Your luck isn't too good, but we are professional examiners and we cannot lower the requirements for you." The mustachioed examiner revealed a smile that was yet not a smile. His eyes turned towards the 3 dishes brought by the smart robot. Although the appearance of these dishes were quite good, he looked as though he didn't agree and merely said, "Any food if you boil it, can be eaten. You should also know this. However, your attempt to pass with such trickery is of no use. He raised his face slightly, and said in a dignified manner, since you are bold enough to join the chef's assessment, you must know that the fish head has a lot of internal organs. However, unexpectedly, you did not process it at all and simply tossed the entire fish head into the pot. Were you relying on the high temperature to eliminate the impurities? Qizhua shook his head. Young people these days, just because you've met with some success online, you already disregard the honor and dignity of good food. As he said this, his eyelids drooped low. He appeared as though he wished iron could turn straight into steel. But in fact, his eyes flashed unmistakable malice. After the assessment candidate had entered the meeting room, he couldn't just block the monitoring cameras. The entire process would be uploaded onto the Chefs Association's website, therefore even if he wanted to eliminate Wan Tang, he absolutely must not let other people pick out any mistakes. These ingredients, aside from the eggs, if they weren't new ingredients, they were infamously known by everyone as scrap ingredients. The spectators might already be skeptical, he thus used these statements to instigate some disharmony. For these viewers, the first impression would be the strongest. They would think that Wan Tang had smashed the pot because it was cracked and that he had come out with these dishes not because he had braved cooking these despite the obvious risks but because he sought to cheat his way through the assessment. In this way, he would be justified in eliminating Wan Tang. After all, who could blame luck? Even so, if someone does go and eat it, they would have their own reasons. Having his carefully prepared dishes being ruthlessly dismissed like some randomly cooked garbage, Wan Tang couldn't help but feel somewhat angry. However, he and the other party had no conflicting interests and he couldn't understand why the other person was acting this way. He could only reason that these intergalactic people weren't familiar with the delicacies that used these ingredients and thus they were prejudiced against them. However, he was certain that the examiner would change his mind if he just had a taste. I have already prepared the fish head and pig's liver quite well. Not only do I not think of these as scrap ingredients, but I also believe that they can be very delicious. If you don't believe me, have a taste and you'll understand. Qizhua gave a cold snort but didn't contradict his statement. He picked up a pair of chopsticks and had a taste of the grandmother's chili eggs. He then immediately spit it out. Too spicy. He continued on to the pig's liver. With his brows wrinkled as though he did so with great bitterness, he put it in his mouth. After chewing it a bit, he also spit it out. Too bitter. Then he tried a mouthful of the fish head soup and with an expression as though he could not possibly endure it, spit it out in the trash bin. Too fishy. All three dishes, after being tasted, were immediately spit out. This was a wholly unimaginable outcome for Wan Tang. That he didn't like the grandmother's chili eggs could be attributed to him not being used to spicy foods. That he didn't like the pig's liver could be attributed to personal taste, but what he said was that it was too bitter. Although Wan Tang couldn't add any doubanjiang or oyster sauce due to the limitation of ingredients, he was certain that he had properly removed the fishy taste. Even if he had only relied on salt, soy sauce, and the natural sweetness of the green bell pepper, there was no way that it would taste bitter. And criticizing the fish head soup as being fishy, that was even more impossible. He had been very meticulous in removing the fishy taste. Although he had no cooking wine, he had repeatedly smeared salt and ginger scallion juice onto it. He had definitely gotten rid of any fishy taste, and what's more, he even added ginger and scallion when boiling it. No matter how stupid the person, they would be able to perceive that Qizhua was deliberately targeting him. Wan Tang's expression turned cold and he looked straight at Qizhua. Qizhua took out a paper towel. While wiping his mouth, he averted his eyes to mask the dread and grimness in his eyes. This Wan Tang had unexpectedly made such delicious dishes out of his painstakingly chosen troublesome ingredients. If this had been a few years ago, he might have been able to find a way to make use of such a talented person. However, Wan Tang had appeared early in the month and had thrown his plans into disarray. Moreover, He didn't know what crazy notion that old man Gu suddenly had, but, with just one more year remaining in his term, he had suddenly decided to find a sufficiently talented youngster to imbibe new vitality into the Chefs' Association. What a joke! If some random youngster managed to get the position of president, then for what had he been suffering in silence all these years for? Now the other party must have already discovered that he's being targeted and his hatred has been established. In that case, the only thing left to do was to cut the weeds and dig up the roots. How many years had Chijua strived in order for him to properly be able to attain the position of president? How much socializing with bigwigs had he done in order for the Chefs' Association to attain its current standing? Not only was he determined to attain the president's position, it was also simply a matter of course. Gently disposing the tissue into the wastebasket, Chijua then confronted Wan Tang. He acted as though he was dealing with a normal everyday matter. Chijua raised his head and earnestly prompted the other examiners, it is possible that it might just be a matter of personal taste. However, I really cannot accept these dishes. You too should also give it a try. We mustn't let an outstanding youngster be overlooked just because of my personal preference. Yes. The two others beside him nodded their heads and picked up their chopsticks at the same time. They started from the leftmost grandmother's chili egg. No sooner had it touched their lips than they spit it out. Too spicy. Too bitter. Too fishy. One after the other, all three dishes received the same carbon copy treatment and evaluation. Wan Tang was angry, but he laughed instead. Now, he understood that these three were working in cahoots to make sure that he fails this assessment. Knowing that this wasn't an honest assessment, Wan Tang lost all respect for them as well. He straightened his body and looked straight at the examiners, and in a voice that was neither haughty nor humble said, "The fish head soup is both nourishing and nutritious. Fish head can lower blood lipids, invigorate the brain and build up the kidneys yang. It can also slow down senility. As for the processing of the fish head, I already used salt and scallion. Ginger juice to get rid of the fishy taste. If you can still taste something foul, I think this foulness might not be coming from the fish head." Impudent. Hearing his explanation, Chi Zhu immediately slammed his hand against the table, interrupting his speech. This was in order to avoid the viewers from calling into question the credibility of the examiners. He glowered at Wan Tang and self-righteously criticized Wan Tang, "If you've committed a mistake, then you've committed a mistake. Not only do you quibble, but you also slander and question the behavior of the examiners. You don't deserve to be called a chef." Wan Tang retorted, "What did I say that insulted the examiners?" "You," Chijua pointed his finger at him but suddenly stopped. It was true that Wan Tang had not directly said that the examiners' mouths are the ones that's foul. The way he had stood up as if to put someone in their right place, now suddenly looked like the actions of a man with a guilty conscience. "You are still so young and yet you're already such a schemer," Chijua snorted coldly, "you're deliberately ambiguous. You would rather slander others than reflect upon your own mistakes. Our Chefs' Association does not need people like you." Talking up to this point, his momentum momentarily died down. He sat back down and said, "Youngster, you shouldn't make such a big deal about everything. Candidate number 59, Wan Tang, I regret to inform you that you have FAI." The meeting room's door suddenly opened with a bang and through it entered a tall and imposing man, dressed in military uniform that perfectly accentuated his strong and lofty build. His face was handsome, possessing a domineering quality. In all, a man who people could never forget. With dashing eyebrows tightly furrowed, his cold, solemn eyes swept through the standing Wan Tang and to Chijua. "I regret that, Vice President Chijua, you have been stripped of your qualifications as an examiner." Chijua frowned. Marshal, he was a household name in the Blue Star Empire and he couldn't not recognize him. However, under the current situation, he could only toughen his scalp and say, "Marshal, although you are a marshal, your scope of authority is limited to military matters. This is the Chefs' Association. Under whose authority are you doing this? Without any change in his expression, he turned slightly sideways and from behind him came a fat, white-haired old man. As soon as the examiners laid eyes on this old man, the expressions on the faces of the 3 examiners immediately changed. President Gu stared coldly at Chi Jua and in a grave voice said, "Under my authority."